Good morning, Raptor Freaks. Lexiot's here. We have a Houston Rockets game tonight on this road trip. Sixth game of 7 games. And yeah, we need to win tonight for many different reasons. One of them being the Rockets are missing 3 of their 5 starters for the game tonight. So if we don't win against the Rockets, this is like really, 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 really bad. We need to beat the Rockets tonight for sure. Just checking in with the comments real quick. Seymour Pope has come in here and he has said, I knew they were going to snub Pascal. Told y'all last week. But like I said, hope they use it to fuel and get some get back. Yeah, the reserves were announced yesterday for the All-Star game, and Pascal Siakam was snubbed from the All-Star team. Now, we kind of knew this might happen because the record of the Raptors has been so bad this year that, they weren't the only team that got snubbed for not having an all-star in the Eastern Conference. Atlanta did not get Trae Young in, and Washington, who is above us in the standings, did not get a representative either. Pascal in some ways doesn't deserve to be on the all-star team, but in a lot of ways he does. And it's going to be one of these things that'll be very interesting to see if he gets on the team after all, partly because Kevin Durant's hurt. There's going to be injury replacements. So Kevin Durant is going to need to be replaced. And, it'll be very interesting to see if they put him in for him instead. I think he is on the short list to get on there. Of course, some media outlets are putting out information about the snubs, and they're snubbing Pascal from the snub list. He's not only snubbed from the All-Star game, but he's also snubbed from the snub team. They list all these people like Anthony Davis, James Harden, Devin Booker, and they had this all snub team, and they snubbed them from that team too. You bastards down in there in the U.S. and your media snubbing Pascal, not only from the All-Star team, but from the snubbed All-Star team. That's crazy. That's funny. All right. Let me just go over the injuries real quick for the game today. Houston is missing Kevin Porter Jr. KJ is out. There's no timetable for his return. It is his foot, his toe. So there's a great young player for them. Kevin Porter Jr. not available tonight. Jalen Green is out, y'all. He is not playing for the Rockets tonight. He's already been ruled out. So there's another starter for them that is not playing tonight. And then the third starter that is not playing is their number 1 pick, Jabari Jr. He is listed as questionable. So he could play. It's a hit pointer on him. But it's looking like the Rockets will be missing 3 out of their 4 starters. And what they've been looking like recently, all right, they've lost a lot this year, obviously. They're 13-38. That means they're winning 1 out of 4 games. But they recently have won 2 games in a row, and it's really because they're being led by Eric Gordon. That sharpshooter veteran three-point guy is actually leading them to a couple victories recently against the 2 teams they beat were Detroit and Oklahoma City. So they're on a 2-game win streak right now, which is very rare for them considering the year they've been having in Houston. So, yeah, Eric Gordon is the leader right now. He is the guy who's leading them as the older player on this team, the sharpshooter, to help them try and win. Now, there's also Sanguine, of course, the center, Jayshawn Tate, Garrison Matthews, that shooter off the bench, Kenyon Martin Jr., Tari Eason, Bruno Fernando, Josh Christopher, Usman Garuba. Jock Landell is on this team also. That's weird. I thought we just saw Jock Landell on the last team we played. I don't know. Are there 2 guys named Jock Landell in this league? I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, the Rockets are sus, and they don't look very good, and we should kick their butt. If we don't beat the Rockets today, I'm going to be very pissed off with the Raptors because something's really wrong. This is a team we have no business losing to tonight, so we need to just beat the Rockets. Cowboys here. Good morning, Lex and Freaks. Let's get a W. Let's go. Yes, Cowboy. Y'all call Tada if you need help around the house. The brothers Tada can come and help you out with some painting and some cleaning up. Paul B's here. I'd love to see Scottie have a big game and Koloko. Was Koloko playing? I don't think Koloko's in the Rising Stars. So don't expect him to be there. You're saying tonight you'd like to see Scottie have a big game and Koloko. You're probably talking about the Rockets game. Yeah. Omari's here. This has to be a W for tonight. For sure, Omari Parsons. For sure. If we don't beat the Rockets tonight, then that's it. Put a cap on this season. We're done. And we might as well just play our bench as much as possible, rest the hell out of Pascal, and just let them chill. In some ways, this is sad for Pascal because, he may miss out on some money because of these decisions. Him not making the All-Star team in some ways may affect whether he makes the All-NBA team. And whether he makes the All-NBA team or not will affect money for him as far as what he can get paid over time and stuff like that. So this is not good. In some ways, he really needed to step up recently. The team needed to win more, and he would have maybe made it then. But in some ways, he's not playing well right this second, and the team obviously isn't either. So, what can you do? Apparently, the coaches that vote for the All-Stars don't really care about it. They do it very quickly. They kind of when they get the ballot, they're like, yeah, I'm busy. I'm trying to coach a team. Okay, yeah, I'll vote for the All-Stars. And they just scribble in names all quick and send it in. And that's kind of how they vote, is what an NBA insider has said today. Salute real ones, Project Truth always. Thank you, Mike. Logical Raptors fanatic in the house. Check out his content on YouTube. Good stuff. Tom Duke saying, good morning. I got to hit the road up island at ASAP. Somebody please feed the zebras for me. Raptors, your day. Raptor, your day, everybody. That's right, Tom. Go out there and raptor your day out there in BC. And be careful out there on the road. And he's saying Isaac Campbell, somebody else, he needs a next man up for the food today because he will not be able to serve the referees. Well, the referees are very interesting tonight. Let me just finish up with the injuries. Of course, OG is held out for the game tonight because of his wrist. There is some weird speculation about whether he should be playing or not. Yeah, I don't think he should be playing. Let's just be smart. Otto Porter Jr. is the other name that's out for the Raptors. Pretty much everybody else is available. On the referees, here's our referee crew for tonight. Since Thomas brought it up, our lead referee is David Guthrie once again. We just had David Guthrie last week. We actually won the game that he refereed last week for us, which is good. He's a referee that I don't mind. He seems like a pretty on the up and up kind of referee. He's from Athens, Georgia, but now lives in Charlotte. His favorite TV show is The West Wing. His favorite movie is The Shawshank Redemption. He likes the Eagles. Living it up in the Hotel California. Such a lovely place. Such a lovely place. His favorite book is The Match. His favorite app is PGA Tour. He most like to visit Hawaii. He likes hitting the fungos. He's that baseball guy, remember? And he also wants to play golf at Augusta National. And his favorite meal is steak, whipped potatoes, and broccoli. So this man wants some steak and some potatoes and some broccoli. Just a general nice meal for David Guthrie. Now, David Guthrie is exactly 50%. We have won and lost the exactly same amount of games in his 18-year career as a franchise at this point. And the Rockets have won 60% of their games. So he technically favors the Houston Rockets tonight. David Guthrie, the head ref. This is weird to me because I guess there's been periods where the Rockets have been really good in the last 18 years. But to me, it seems like our record should be better under them just because of how bad they've been also at different times. But it's 50% Raptors, 60% for Rockets. David Guthrie, the lead ref. Our second ref is Sean Corbin. He is the older ref of all the three refs. He's in his 29th season. He's from Baltimore, Maryland. He now lives in Florida. His favorite TV show is CSI Miami, and his favorite movies are the Godfather movies. His favorite musician is Brian Culbertson. His favorite book is Quiet Strength. His favorite app is The News. He'd most like to visit Johannesburg, South Africa. He'd like to drive cross-country in an RV, and his hidden talent is cooking. Now, Sean Corbin considers his most memorable assignment to be a triple overtime game between the Boston Celtics and the Vancouver Grizzlies on February 17th, 1999. He's also refereed at the 2004 Summer Olympics in Athens for basketball. So there you go. He was an Olympic referee. Sean's record with, and his food is steak and lobster. There's another steak guy. We got steak boys today. Sean Corbin is the nicest ref to us today, but we only win 53% of the time when he's around, and we lost the last game he ref this season. And meanwhile, the Rockets have the best record under him out of all three refs, 68% winning there. So this is another ref that favors the Rockets tonight. Sean Corbin, the second ref. The third ref is Sayesh Mehta. He's in his fourth season as a ref. He's from Baltimore, Maryland, but he lives in Miami now. His favorite TV show is That's right, The Office. Favorite movie, Slumdog Millionaire. He's a real big fan of the Silver Bullet Band with Bob Seger. His favorite book is The Alchemist. His favorite app is Spotify, and he most like to visit South Africa. Maybe you go there with Sean Corbin. Both of y'all want to go to South Africa. Climb Mount Kilimanjaro is on his bucket list, and he's very good at badminton. Suyesh Mehta has officiated 5 seasons in the NBA G League, and he is also he is from India and moved to the United States in the 80s. His parents moved here in the 80s. His father is a retired physician who specialized in internal medicine, and Mehta speaks Hindi and Punjabi fluently. Now, Sayesh is the worst ref for us today. We have a really bad record with him. We win 30% of the games that we play on when he's refereeing, and we lost the last game he refed, and the Rockets win 57% of the games. So in some ways, I'm looking at this ref crew, and I'm like, none of them like us. They like the Rockets better than us. So I don't like the stats on this. This is a pretty fair crew historically, other than Sayesh. I mean, like Guthrie and Corbin are not bad, but they statistically favor the Rockets tonight. So this will be very interesting. Nameless is here. I just joined the chat, and Lex is in the middle of playing the air guitar. Awesome. Yeah, there you go, Nameless. You never know what you might pop in and see on the Raptor Free channel all of a sudden here. So yeah, there's your referees. Not very happy with them. Not very happy with them indeed. Yes. Let's see. Last night, the 905 played a game against the Cleveland Charge, and it was a fantastic game, guys. They absolutely kicked their ass, 136-100. I want to do kind of a recap of this game because it was so fun. There was an amazing dunk in the middle of this game by Gabe Brown. He did the Vince Carter between the legs coming from behind and did it in the middle of the game. And it was fantastic. Y'all need to go watch this as soon as possible. If you did not know that Gabe Brown threw down a Vince Carter dunk in the middle of the 905 game last night, you need to go watch it and watch the reaction of the 905 bench after that, specifically Jeff Doughton Jr. The look on Jeff's face was hilarious, and the way that they were all acting and celebrating after Gabe Brown's fantastic dunk, it was a party in Mississauga last night. I'm going to tell you that right now. They were having a lot of fun. Now, the Cleveland Charge were very undermanned last night. They only had 7 players available, and they played the hell out of them, trust me. And they weren't even their best players. They had Evan Mobley's brother there. He was like the best player for them in some ways, but he didn't do the best. But he was like the most well-known player out of all the guys that showed up for the Cleveland Charge. Isaiah Mobley, Evan Mobley's older brother. And then, on our side, we have these new guys that showed up recently, Tillman and Hollins, and they were fantastic. They came in and they shot really well. Hollins is the guard. He had 10 assists in 18 minutes, which led the team in assists. And the team overall, this is the impressive thing. The Raptors 905 got 40 assists as a team last night. Hollins getting 10 assists himself. Doughton with 8. Reggie Perry had 6. And Ron Harper Jr. and Sterling Brown both got 4 assists also. So 40 assists as a team for the Raptors 905 last night. Fantastic stuff. I love that so much. Their team stats were actually really impressive. They shot super, super well. They shot 59% from the field last night, the 905. They didn't shoot bad at 3, 13 for 35, and 85% at the free throw line. Just all around great effort by the 905. They were saying after the game that the week off between their last game, which was last Thursday, and this game yesterday, all they did was work their asses off. Apparently, they were doing a lot of strength training. They were doing some really heavy, hard practices in the last week, the 905 troop. So, and the new guys who just showed up, Tillman and Hollins, were saying that they were invited and brought into the fold so welcomely that they felt so comfortable coming in right away and doing really well and playing at a high level. That the 905 organization and the teammates made them feel really welcome and like they fit right in right away. They out-rebounded the Cleveland Charge. As I said, 40 assists and fantastic. They did lose the turnover battle, but that really didn't matter in this game. 74-22 points in the paint. 74 points in the paint to 22 points for Cleveland. Fantastic all around by the 905, routing the Cleveland Charge, a team that technically has a better record than us and is having a couple of their guys go to the All-Star weekend for G League All-Star selection. My 3 stars for the Raptors 905 last night are number 1 star, Reggie Perry, 9 of 15 from the field, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, a block, 23 points. He was the highest plus minus on he was the second highest, but he was a plus 24. That's fantastic. Just a great game by Reggie, leading the team. He really is the leader of the 905. The second star goes to Jeff Doughton Jr., 6 of 8 from the field, 8 assists, 3 steals, 20 points. He was a plus 20 himself. And then my third star, I think I'll give that one to Gabe Brown, just because of the great dunk, 17 points, 7 of 13 shooting, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, plus 21 himself. So a lot of guys plus 21 in the Raptors 905 game last night. There were quite a few guys that played really well. In fact, there were 6 guys in double digits. Ron Harper Jr., 4 of 5 from the field, 11 points, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, and 2 blocks, plus 19. David Johnson, 6 of 8 from the field, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 13 points. Sterling Brown, not a great game scoring, but he was a plus 26, and he had 12 rebounds, only 5 points. Then off the bench, also Epps, 7 of 12, 6 rebounds, 17 points, 2 blocks. But yeah, good stuff by the new guys, Hollins and Tillman. Like I said, Hollins got 10 assists, and then Tillman was a perfect 2 for 2, 6 rebounds, 8 points, a plus 10. Yeah, and the other guys who were on the team already, like Kelly, this big, tall, white center guy, he played pretty good, 8 points. And then Morsel, 2 points. And then Ryan Hawkins, 5 points. So, yeah, great game by the 905. And this month, for February, for Black History Month, they're wearing a really, really cool jersey for this month. It is got really cool colors with the black and the orange and the yellow. And they just have really nice trim on them, the 905. These February Black Heritage Month jerseys are fantastic. In fact, the 905 have had some of the most stylish, coolest jerseys since this New Year started, with their Lunar New Year jerseys last week. And now these amazing jerseys to celebrate the month of February as Black Heritage Month. These jerseys are available, if y'all want to know, at the Mississauga Paramount Fine Foods Center. You can also probably order them online because they are fire. Honestly, the designs are amazing. They're both created by female creators, and they're just fantastic to read about the reasoning in their design and why they made it. It's just such interesting stuff. Both of those jerseys, the Lunar New Year one and then the one they're wearing this month for February. So check it out, and if you like it, you go get it. Go get you that jersey. It's pretty cool. Yeah. All right, let me see what else you guys are saying in the comments since I've been on here. Fiercey is here. Fiercey Salsera. Good morning, fam. So disappointed for Pascal not being chosen. He truly deserved it this year. Shea was chosen. No shade, but Oklahoma City's record isn't that great either. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The criteria for how they choose the All-Stars is a little bit always kind of different and weird. And, I understand why we didn't make it. One of the problems is in the Eastern Conference, the top teams in the Eastern Conference are getting 2 All-Stars. On the Western side, only one team got 2 All-Stars. Everybody else just got 1 representative for their team. So that means 11 teams can be represented in the Western Conference. But because Kevin and Kyrie are starters, Jason and Jalen, Giannis and Drew Holiday, they've taken it down to only 10 teams get All-Stars, or 9 teams in the East. And that's kind of why we're shut out. Now, we can say something, but we're not the only team that is in this situation. The Hawks, in fact, with Trae Young, are probably have a bigger case and are more pissed off, seen as they're higher in the standings. And Trae Young has a history of being an all-star year after year. And then you can start talking about how Philly probably does deserve a second all-star and getting James Harden on there, because James Harden's all-star streak has been broken. If he doesn't get added as a reserve, he has made the all-star team 10 years in a row. And this is a big kerfuffle. And Joel Embiid himself got on Twitter and was telling people this is messed up. Now, a lot of people are saying it's messed up that Pascal didn't make it, and a lot of them are NBA or Toronto media members. People like Savannah Hamilton, Blake Murphy, Samson Folk. They're all coming out in support of Siakam and saying that this is messed up. That, part of it is that Siakam's stats are so historically good, and they're like this, they're kind of stats that are just undeniably all-star stats. And that if he doesn't make the all-star team as a reserve replacement, he will be the first player in history of the NBA that had such good stats like that didn't make the all-star game. So, yeah, it's crazy. It's a couple of things working at the same time. It's our record not being very good. It's the fact that we're Toronto, obviously. And then also the fact that in some ways Siakam has not played well in the last couple of weeks. If he had been doing stuff like he did against New York in December in the last week or so, they would have put him in quick because of like the 50 points in Madison Square Garden. So it's a short memory. He did all that in December, and now there's been a month of January, and we've not gotten much better in the last month, even though Precious has been back. And they're looking at that, and that is part of the reason why he doesn't make it. But once again, I said he got snubbed from the team. He's also getting snubbed from the snub team. People are saying these are the guys who got snubbed from the All-Star team. He's getting snubbed from that team also. You can't win. Nameless, good to see you here. I don't know what you said. Let's see. Forgetful is saying, when we compare the size of the economy in 1980 to 2022, we adjust the dollar value of one of the other to account for inflation. Inflation is why LeBron is likely to never equal Kareem in real numbers. Ooh, that's interesting. Now, that's kind of a shot at LeBron's chase of overcoming Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record. And I get what you're saying. One of the things, getting back to what I was just talking about with the All-Star team, is some people are very much advocating expanding the rosters for the All-Star game to 15 players from 12. Eric Smith, in particular, is rarely talking about this a lot on Twitter, and I agree with him. Some of the people are arguing you shouldn't do that because it waters down the prestige of it, but here's the argument. That they made the All-Star game in the 50s when there were only like 12 teams, and that there was so much representation of all the teams in the league. And as we've expanded as a league to 30 teams, there is not as much representation across the whole entire league. So that in some ways, it doesn't water it down if you expand the rosters to 15 people on the All-Star game. That this will allow more recognition for teams that don't usually get it. Expansion, because of all the teams in the league, will be more equally represented like it was back in the day. So some people are saying, oh, it's watered down if you do that. Well, the whole league is watered down because there's so many teams now. And then in some ways they should maybe expand the rosters. Now, another problem with that may be that nobody gets to play. Like, there's already a limited time in the game, and certain people get froze out, and it's really hard to play 12 guys in a game already. To try and get 15 into the game, that's a little tough. I don't know. In some ways, the injury replacements are so common each year. There's at least 3 or 4 players that get injury reserve replaced, that in some ways it is kind of like getting 15 All-Stars every year because there's replacements. I don't know. I could see both sides of the coin. Now, if Kevin's not going to play, which is pretty likely, that he's going to have a forward replacement. And then we would have to see who would be in replacing Kevin Durant on the All-Star game. Would it be Pascal, or would it be Jimmy Butler or something like that? They may want to go like the way of like, we need to represent Miami with two people. I don't know. I think Pascal's pretty much on the short list to be a replacement. So we'll have to see how this goes. Kevin in particular. Now, if it's a guard replacement, they'll put Harden on the team or Trae Young. I'm sure it'll be one of those two guys if it's a guard injury replacement. But if it's a forward injury replacement, it should be our guy. It's funny that with the All-Star reserves, that there's a couple of guys that made the All-Star team that are always in these arguments of being better or worse than Pascal. Who is better, Pascal or Bam? Pascal or Jalen Brown? And these motherfuckers made the team now. That sucks. I mean, in a lot of ways, I like what Naco the Nacho has been saying. It's right here. I'm going to read it right now. Bam shouldn't get All-Star over Pascal. Drew probably shouldn't get All-Star over Harden. Happy for Shea. Happy for Laurie. Markkanen. Well, Markkanen had to make it. He deserves it. And that's the home team for the All-Star. So they needed a Utah All-Star representative. And it's a good thing that in this transition year for the Jazz, they had a player good enough to make the All-Star team like Markkanen. And he definitely is. But there really could have been a strong chance that they got the All-Star weekend and they had just blew up their team last summer, that they didn't have their shit together to even have a good representative to be in the All-Star game. Well, it worked out. And they got a good one, Markkanen. He does deserve it. And I am very happy for SGA. He is the fourth ever Canadian to make the All-Star team. That's only 4 guys from Canada have ever made the All-Star team. That's crazy. It's Nash, McGlure, and Wiggins, and now SGA. 4 Canadians have been All-Stars in the history of the NBA. So good job, SGA. In the Harden thing, yeah, that's messed up, and Joel's mad, and in some ways he's right. I wouldn't have argued against James Harden being on All-Stars that he was on in past years, and that he deserves it more this year than those other years. And that's the crazy thing about this league. It's so crazy. But I agree. I agree that Pascal deserved to be on the All-Star team over Bam Adebayo and Drew Holiday. I know that Milwaukee deserves 2 All-Stars in a way, but in a way, do they really? I mean, I know Chris Middleton's been hurt, so he would be the normal secondary All-Star. And Drew Holiday, maybe they're just trying to put some shine on him, elevate him in the prestige of the league and to being of an All-Star level. And that's part of why they put it on him. I mean, I know in some ways we got to look at how he killed us in the game we played against them already this season and say, yeah, he deserves it because he absolutely was the best player in that game against the Bucks earlier this season when we played them. Because they didn't have Giannis. They didn't have some people on their team, and he had to be the number 1 guy, and he killed it. So in some ways, I can't be mad at him making the All-Star team just because he killed our team the one time we played them. So, yeah, it's a weird All-Star game. Let me just look at this a little bit further. All right. So the All-Stars are Jaylen Brown, Bam Adebayo, Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday's already been an All-Star once before, so it's not like he's getting it for the first time. DeMar, I'm very happy that DeMar made it, even though in some ways DeMar's the guy who kind of could be like 50-50 on making it. But, the thing with DeMar DeRozan is that he didn't make the All-Star team for a couple of years because he was in San Antonio and he was getting dissed. Well, I like the fact that he made it. He's making it in Chicago because he really does deserve those All-Star nods for his career. The fact that he only has 6 All-Stars in his whole entire career is kind of messed up in some ways, if you think about it. Julius Randle with his 2nd All-Star appearance. And then for the first time ever, Tyrese Haliburton will be going to the All-Star game. And I can't say that that's not warranted or deserved. On the Western side, Domantas Sabonis is going to his 3rd All-Star. I didn't realize he's such a young player that he's been to 3 All-Stars. That seems like too many for him, honestly. Trailblazers, Damian Lillard is going, of course. Paul George is going. I think that's a little suspect. I mean, I know the Clippers need a representative, but I mean, I don't know. Paul George is so meh to me. It's like he's not really that exciting. And like, I don't know. I even though Kawhi's been hurt, I think he has more star power. And in some ways, Kawhi Leonard should be going to the All-Star game, not Paul George. And then Jaren Jackson Jr. is a 2nd Memphis Grizzly going with Ja Morant in the starting lineup. I found that kind of puzzling. I mean, I guess I get it why they need 2 reps for Memphis, but that's a weird team to get 2 reps if none of the other teams in that that conference are getting 2 refs. Why would Memphis get that and it would be Jaren Jackson Jr.? I don't know. I guess he's playing really well. And sometimes they really just want to put these guys in there to get them on an all-star kind of like prestige level. But to me, I've never thought of Jaren Jackson Jr. as being kind of an all-star. He just doesn't have that kind of luster or excitement to him, or like I don't think of him as star power. Let's just put it that way. And sometimes that is a factor in making the All-Stars. Is, are you a star? And I don't think Jaren Jackson Jr. is a star. The guys that got snubbed that they have on the short list are Devin Booker. That is obvious, but he's been hurt. And there's a good reason why he's not on the All-Star team. He's been hurt. Anthony Davis, another person who's been hurt. And honestly, I know a lot of people saying, oh, he should be on there. He's a snub. Well, the Lakers suck. They already got LeBron on there. Why the fuck would you put 2 Lakers on there when they're so bad? Trae Young, I should say, sure, that's a snub. But in some ways, they've underperformed. And also, because DeJounte's in Atlanta now, he takes some of the shine away from him and makes it kind of hard for them to just say, oh, it's Trae Young. Because in some ways, DeJounte is a commiserate talent on that team that's doing a lot of the same things that he's doing. So it kind of muddles the picture for Trae Young to get All-Star. And then Siakam is listed here, as he should be. And then Jimmy Butler is on here too. Now, Miami doesn't deserve 2 All-Stars for sure. I would say Jimmy Butler probably deserves to be on the All-Star game more than Bam Adebayo. And that's just because Jimmy's just more of history as an All-Star. And in some ways, he's playing better for Miami in some ways. Now, James Harden is breaking his streak of 10 consecutive All-Star appearances. And Embiid took to Twitter to express his disappointment. And he said, y'all got some explaining to do, NBA, about that. Denver Nuggets coach Mike Malone is saying it's a travesty that forward Aaron Gordon didn't make the team. What the fuck is this? I mean, he's trying to say that because Denver is the top team in the West, that they deserve 2 All-Stars, one other than Jokic, and that he thinks that Aaron Gordon should have been on the All-Star team. That's crazy. That is crazy. Aaron Gordon is not an All-Star. Come on, get out of here with that. So, yeah, that's basically a little bit of the update on the All-Star reserves announcement yesterday. And once again, it's going to be a really weird All-Star game where they're going to pick the teams right before the game in front of everybody with those guys making their reactions right in front of everybody. That will be fun in some ways. But also, I'm kind of like, you know what? If they don't pick Pascal as an injury replacement and he doesn't play in this game, I'm going to boycott the game. That in some ways, that's how I deal with it. It's like, all right, you don't want good ratings? All right, I'm turning the TV off. You don't want us to watch the All-Star game? I don't give a shit about your stupid ass highfalutin exhibition game where people just dunk and don't play any defense and it's stupid. If I don't have a player from my team represented in that game, then why the fuck should I watch it, is what I'm saying. So I may not be watching them. Now, for the All-Star weekend, I'm not going to do what I did last year where I live streamed while I watched them. I'm just going to do regular reactions the day after the events and just do my normal schedule. There won't be any late night live streams during those events like I did last year. I found it kind of fun, but I didn't find like that format totally worked. And I'd much rather just talk about it all in the morning like we do in reaction. So that's kind of what to expect from this channel during the All-Star weekend. Of course, because there's a lot of days off, we're going to go to the off-season schedule for a bit, and we will have some things like trivia, a Sunday report, stuff like that. We may do a couple of the off-season like formatting because there is a break and there's a couple of days off. So, all right, let's keep going with the comments. Jay Conda is saying, what up, everyone? Let's go Raptors. Yes, Jay Conda, you go, Raptor freak Jay Conda. Let's beat the Rockets tonight. Yeah, the Rockets. Yeah, Rockets. We're going to beat you. Well, you got to beat them. We really do. We really, really do. Mike's saying, not going to lie, I ain't too hurt about us missing the All-Star game. We need to focus on staying healthy and continuing to grow and develop forward. The week break should be solid for guys to come back 100%. Well, we've got a rising star that will be there for the Rising Stars game, Mr. Scottie Wayne Barnes. And that, I guess, that's our all-star representation. I mean, they haven't really announced who exactly the dunk competition and the three-point shootout are, but it's not likely that any of our guys will be in that. Maybe Gary could be in the three-point shootout. That would be fun if he could do that. But once again, I think you're right, Logical, that maybe this is a good chance for guys to just take some rest take some time on the beach, clear their head, and get in a better place for after the All-Star season. So, one particular person, Chris, has already said, you won't catch me in Utah. I will be in the islands. Only if Pascal asked me to come to All-Star weekend would I come. And well, he's not going to ask you now because he's probably not going. And in some ways, that's good. And the other part of it is true. The first comment today, that this should feed Pascal's fire. This should piss him off. This should make him maybe get into a mindset a little bit more like what I was describing yesterday. That, look, man, you can't be passively just giving it up to God and letting it all work out that way. You need to go get it. And if you go get it, then you will get things like All-Star. And that's what I'm saying, Siakam. Let's get motivated and to have a chip on our shoulders because of this slight from yesterday. And it is a slight, trust me. I know that he may be like, I don't care. Maybe this is good. I don't need to fucking go there. I just was there and it sucks. I don't want to go back to Utah. And yeah, that's good. In some ways, that's right, Mike. But it's also, this is your career. You only get one shot and you only get a certain amount of times to try and make the All-Star. And you've got, I don't know, 1 or 2 All-Stars, Pascal. You need more accolades and you need to be going there more often because you are that kind of player. And it should matter because this listen, you're not making the All-Star. Last year it didn't matter. You made All-NBA anyway. For you to do that 2 years in a row is very rare and maybe kind of tough. And especially with our team performing the way it has, you're not going to get All-NBA consideration as strongly as you did last year because we performed so well as a team. And this may be, like I said at the beginning of this live stream, Siakam, you may lose money because of this. Because your contract says if you make All NBA this year, you get a percentage increase in your max, you can be paid. And if you don't make All NBA, then you're going to make less money. And that's part of this whole problem with this whole thing for him in some ways. Yeah. Monique is here. Good morning to Monique Lawrence. Good morning, everyone, and happy game day. Not worried about tonight. Go crush them. Yeah, I'm not totally worried about tonight either, but in a way I am. Because looking at the percentages with the referees, they favor the Rockets, and they are at home, but they are missing 2 of their most important players for sure, maybe even 3, and that'll help. We need to crush the Rockets. This is just pure truth. If we find a way to lose this game tonight in some sort of weird, fucked up way, like we have lost a lot of games this season, yeah, it's going to be an interesting stream tomorrow. It'll be maybe a lot of cussing, and it could be like, just give up on the season. Just fucking rip it up, throw it in the garbage because it's done. Because we lost the Rockets without 2 of their most important players on a Friday night when we had no business doing that. So this is, in some ways, a test for seeing how bad we are or how bad we can be at losing. That kind of thing. All right, let's see. Nameless saying, I may have the COVID, but at least I have y'all. Oh, man, I hate to hear that, Nameless. It's funny. This pandemic isn't totally over, but we have had to go back to business. But now all the people that managed to avoid getting COVID over 2 years are getting it now, finally. Like my parents got COVID finally for the first time around Christmas. Actually, just after Christmas in January, they got it. They didn't get it while they were here. They were in Georgia when they got it. And they're still kind of recovering from it, like after a couple of weeks. But this is 2023. This is almost 3 years since the pandemic started. So that's interesting. Eventually, everybody will get it. And it's kind of scary. Hopefully, the people that are immunocompromised or have health issues can ride through it and get through it okay. Because it is something, even if you didn't get it once, you will probably get it at some point. I finally got it at the Kyle Lowry return game last April. I went to see Kyle Lowry come back to Toronto, and that's how I got COVID. That's my COVID story. So, yeah, I hope you're well, and I hope you feel okay. Get lots of fluids and a lot of rest, Nameless. How about that? Do a little sorcery, and maybe you can help yourself too. Do something, build something in the Kessler of like bat wings, and I don't know what the formula is for COVID help. Something like that. I don't know. All right, let's keep going. Cool Cat saying, good morning, Raptor Free Crew. Pascal's lack of All-Star is on Nick Nurse. Front office roster construction, no center, no bench, but want miracles. OG Fred, can't blame them. U.S. free agent and Scottie will not stick around for BS. Yee. Now, this is kind of a cynical take, But I get it. I get it. She's upset. She really likes Pascal and she wants him to be on the All-Star team, and he should have been in the All-Star team. I can't say that it's exactly on those guys. I think it's on a collective of everybody. I mean, you can point a finger at Nick. Sure. There are a lot of things about what Nick's done with his coaching decisions this season that have led to things that have happened with us. Sure, you can point a finger at the front office for the build of the team and things like that. But you can also point a finger to the players to a degree, also, in some ways. I mean, there's blame to go around in all kinds of different ways. But in some ways, listen, it's so hard for us to get an all-star sometimes just in normal settings. And with the special case with our team being this bad, they're not going to give us any shine. There always has been, a bias against the Raptors, and they're not going to want to put us on blast if we're not a good team. They only put us on blast when they absolutely have to because they can't ignore us. We could be a very good team and be beating people left and right. They'll ignore us until they absolutely have to put us on blast because we're so good, like in the finals in 2019. So, man, you know what? I'm going to hold out and hope that Pascal still gets added as an injury replacement. Let's give them a chance to get this right. They didn't do it last year when Jared Allen got put in and LaMelo Ball. But this year, hopefully they'll fix this right and get Siakam in as one of the first injury replacements for the East, if there is some. So I'll give him a chance still. Isaac Campbell saying, I hope you feel better soon at Nameless. Yes, thank you, Isaac, for looking out for the great sorcerer Nameless. Paul B saying, February 9th, this team needs to be fixed or dismantled. Everyone wants our players sell high and let's build around Scottie. We can't have games with 27 more shot attempts and lose ever again. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a little bit overreacting, Paul. I won't say I say it needs to be fixed, sure, but I won't say dismantled. That's a little bit too extreme. There's a lot of good things that we're doing still right now that we don't need to toss out, that we just need to fix. I think fixed is the right word, and there will be maybe a deal or two that get done, or something's going to happen. Trust me, there will be something that the Raptors are going to do. We got to finish this road trip and then play a couple games, and the All-Star break will happen, the trade deadline, and all that stuff. We'll just see what happens in the next week, because that trade deadline is looming and it's coming up next week. So we'll have to see. Let's see. Omari's saying, I'm glad he didn't make it. Now he knows we got to win for anything to mean anything. Yeah. Yeah. In some ways, this is one of those harsh, tough life lessons. It's like, look, you got to be that good to make it and be that great. To be an all-star, your team has to be good too. And yeah, in some ways, I'm glad he didn't make it too, because in some ways, I don't think he does deserve it. I think he deserves it stat-wise and leader-wise, but in some ways, he doesn't deserve it also, is the kind of the way I feel about it. So Jay Conda's saying, I have an itch only a W can scratch. We got this. Yeah, tonight, let's beat those Rockets. Let's beat those Rockets. Yeah, Callie's saying, I feel bad for Pascal. However, we'll give the team rest and time to recruit. Yeah, we'll take the positive side of whatever and take some time to yourself, Pascal. Get away from the game, recalibrate, reset yourself, and come back maybe fresh with a new approach. And maybe you'll have a little bit of pissed off in you because you got snubbed. That's what I'm saying. This is something, is an opportunity. As Raptor fans, we want to see Siakam react to this in a very angry way. I think I remember last year when he didn't make the team, he was pretty pissed off and he went on a tear for the rest of the year. So if this happens again this year, that could be good for our record and our team getting it out of the mud. So in some ways, this is good because it's a slight. It's something that's like, oh yeah, you're nonchalant. You're saying, oh, I give it up to God. It's going to all work out in the end. Well, this is something you could get slighted for. You get pissed off about. Well, this may motivate you to put even more extra effort. It's not even that don't think he doesn't put effort on the court. He puts all kinds of effort out there. It's focused effort. It's effort that is just like, I'm going to go fucking do this right now and nobody can stop me. Because even when he makes his moves to the basket, it's kind of like he's leaving a real a real margin of error, as far as like, it's not a sure shot basket. It's really he's kind of like putting his trust, and it's like, oh, it's going to go in. That's what I'm saying. That's the difference between a really good superstar like Kevin Durant, somebody who's absolutely a superstar and a game changer, and somebody like Pascal, who's a good scorer, but he's not somebody who can focus and just hit the shots whenever he wants to, for sure. That's the difference I'm talking about. Kevin will go and get those shots, whether he for sure. If he really has to go make a shot for sure, Kyrie, same thing. I want that more from Pascal. I want him to be like, I know he can make that really nice, beautiful shot, and he can make himself untouchable. But there's so many moments when I feel like he should be very much serious about the possession and making sure he gets the absolute best shot. And he seems like he's just flopping up shit. He's like just flipping it up, and it's not even really a good shot. It's just kind of like, I know that they, in some ways, their strategy is just throw the ball up on the basket and crash the boards and get a second chance shot. But he could make the first initial shot that he takes a much better high percentage shot that has a way better chance of making it. And that's the problem I have with some of the stuff he just throws up. He's just kind of throwing it up. Let's see. Monique saying Alex Wong has a new book coming out in October. 2023 news and notes. Go Raptors. What a game for the 905, eh? Yeah, apparently Alex Wong has a new book that's coming out in October about the Raptors, where he's done a ton of interviews with people around the Raptors, interviews with former players, people that worked for the Raptors, reporters, all kinds of different people. And the foreword of his book is written by Damon Stoudemire. So this is a very interesting project that Alex Wong has coming out later this year. So look for Alex Wong's new book on the Raptors. I forget what it's called, but I did see it getting put on blast on Twitter yesterday. Seymour Pape is saying, Pascal, use it as fuel, maple syrup fuel. Yeah, fuel your fire, Siakam. You take this as an insult. You take this as something like Fred tweeted about this right away last night on Twitter. He said, there's something wrong with his all-star team in standing up for his friend, his teammate. He's saying there's something wrong with this all-star team that Siakam's not on it. Nameless is saying maple syrup fuel. Yeah, that's what we need. We need to build those 100% Canadian maple syrup leads and build them up real thick and fuel that maple syrup that's in Pascal Siakam, that it will flow out into scoring and big, huge baskets and, future all-star selections. Seymour saying, I'm not mad he got snubbed. These guys need a kick in the butt. Get the shit straight. Motivation. Let's go. We the North. Yeah, in some ways it's like that. We got to be tough love. It's like a dad, you're saying, listen, son, your report card's not good enough. You can't go on that honor roll field trip. You didn't make honor roll. How the hell you go on an honor roll field trip if you didn't make honor roll? It's like that. It's like that. It's like if your kid ain't been doing exactly right, you want to get them to get rewarded for half-assery? No, you don't. You want them to be like, all right, you got to do better. It's like, this ain't like a performance, like a participation trophy to go to the All-Star game. This is really hard to do. And not, you have to have all the right things to happen because there's a limited amount of spots and they got different people they can choose from. So you really got to distinguish yourself among the crowd to be absolutely having to go there. Forgetful saying Oren Weisfeld has a good article in The Guardian today on the decline of defense in the NBA. I say bring back contact and kill the three-point shot. 2 points only for field goals. Wow. Forgetful wants to go all the way back to the 1950s, 1960s style with Jerry West and Elgin Baylor out there. This is what these sound like with no three-point shot out there. Well, the three-point shot's not going anywhere. But I do like your ideas about like allowing a little bit more contact for the defense to allow them to do things. I think that that's better. I think one of the reasons why the NBA is taking away the contact for the defense is that they're worried about players getting hurt too much. That when these players come to the basket and they get up in the air and they're going for dunks or doing whatever, when they get hit out of the air, it's likely that they can have a very serious injury. So in some ways, chopping the nuts of the defense from being able to contact people on defense is partly to preserve players from injury. And that's their reasoning on this, partly. But I think that you're right, that there needs to be more contact in this league in some ways. And that was one of the great things about 1980s and 1990s NBA, that there was a much more physical game. People laugh at that like nowadays. They're like, oh, it's so much more physical. Like, we can go back there and watch some of the clips of some of the ways they used to play back then with Charles Barkley, Rick Mahorn, Bill Laimbeer, Dennis Rodman. These people, the way they used to throw people around and touch them up real quick when they came in the lane. Charles Oakley had a reputation for a reason, y'all. You need to go watch the old Charles Oakley in the New York Knicks uniform and even in our Toronto Raptors uniform in the early 2000s. And that style of play has been neutered by the rules at this point. You cannot touch somebody like you could back then. That's for sure. In some ways, I like that idea of bringing back the contact. There was an incident last night with Dylan Brooks and Donovan Mitchell that was very interesting. Dylan Brooks hit Donovan in the nuts. He was laying on the ground. He went bam, and then Donovan threw the ball at him, and like it was crazy. It was very 90s NBA kind of fracas, as far as like coaches coming off the court and everybody flying every which way. And Donovan Mitchell's very upset with Dylan Brooks in the after game, talking all this stuff. And yeah, it's kind of fun. Dylan Brooks is a villain. And he is very much somebody who's causing some problems around the league in different places. But I thought that was hilarious. Fortunately, Cleveland still won. I kind of wanted Memphis to win that one, but it is what it is. They're never, ever going to get rid of the 3-point. But I would love to see the rules change in favor of the defense with contact things. So, yeah, I like your comment, Forgetful. Duke Rocks is saying you have to put in Bam since there's no Jimmy Butler. I know. That's the thing. They really look at it in certain ways. They're like, all right, how many is this team represented? And where Miami is in the standings, they do warrant an all-star ahead of some of us, like they're below them. And I guess Jimmy's been hurt, or Jimmy's not exactly like at a super, super level. And Bam's kind of been maybe at a higher level, and that's why he's in over Jimmy. But to me, Jimmy Butler's better all-star in some ways. But yeah. Yeah, no Jimmy Butler. Seymour saying that Grizzlies assistance coach needs a raise. That tackle on Brooks was CFL worthy. Yeah, well, they had to get him out of there. And it's funny because it's that team on team. And it's like, in some ways, it's smart because like, they're freaking out. They don't want players to miss games for suspension and get it worse. He probably will get suspended anyway. But let's make it less by running out there and tackling him. That's hilarious. Yeah, that was pretty good, Seymour. It was funny. Monique saying, play the bench even more this game. It's the last day to vote. Reggie Perry until midnight. So you can still vote for G League representation. And Reggie Perry was among the leaders, but he wasn't the last time I looked. So go vote for Raptors 905 and the G League All-Star voting for sure. Go do it. Just do it. Nameless is saying, thank you, Isaac Campbell. Appreciate that. Yeah, we all hope that you get better, Nameless. It's a weird thing where he comes in waves. Sometimes you'll feel, I'm great. I don't have COVID anymore. And then like an hour later, you're like, oh, and then you're like, oh, I'm great. And then, the next day, it may be like that. So don't take the bait and think you're all right already. Keep testing to make sure that you're negative before you go do anything else, because you might feel better and be like, I feel great, but you may have COVID still. You may be shocked because it does come in waves, just so you know. Seymour saying, Nameless, hope you get back healthy ASAP. Yeah, see, we're here for you, and we're looking out, Nameless. Cool Cat saying, folks, short-sighted. Scottie observing the fan base and see how disrespectful you are to his teammates. Why stay in a foreign country to face negative stuff when he could be home and make money too? I know that's a mindset that some people are having about with Scottie, but you know what? I've seen even more recently with Scottie that's making me think he's staying with us, and he doesn't look at Canada as any different than the U.S. In some ways, he's not wired to think we're any different than them. Now, there's been weird things like, he's touched the money for the first time or something. Like in that article that was put out recently about Scottie is really well written. By this female reporter. She's fantastic. And she's talking about how he never touches Canadian money because it's all virtual. It's like he uses it through the card or tap or whatever to pay, EBT. But he touched the Canadian money, and he actually told the guy, I want this $20 from you because I want to hold it and feel it because it feels so cool with plastic. In that article, he talks about how he doesn't see Canada as any different than the U.S. In fact, he really likes it here. I think that part of it is that he likes his autonomy and independence of being here, that in some ways his family stays in the U.S. and he's only here by himself with Cardi. And that in some ways it's kind of like growing up and going away to college. It's kind of like that experience because he was at Florida State and only for 1 year, and it was during a pandemic, and it was really weird time. I probably didn't get that feeling that a lot of people get in that rite of passage of going away to school and going away from your hometown and away from your family and being a young adult. And I think that he super, super truly values that about here in Toronto, and that he really loves that Toronto's such a cool city for him to be in that. We told him on the Twitch stream last year, that you're the king of Toronto, bro. This city's your oyster and you can do whatever you want. This is one of the coolest cities in the world and you can go do whatever you want. Once again, this was echoed earlier this week about worrying about whether fans influence players on their decisions. I don't think we do. I really don't think we do. First of all, Scottie's not reading half of the shit that people are saying. And honestly, once again, our fans are not any different than any of the U.S. team fans either. And so it may be the money concerns as far as exchange rates and taxes and things like that. Sure, may be in factor in his mindset because he is very financially mindseted. But I think other than that, he values the independence and the idea that he's away and that he has his own space and time, and that is a big part of what will keep him here in Toronto. Now, obviously, the other thing that will be very important, forget about the fans, is whether we're winning or not. That's the thing I worry about way, way more. Our team has to be a winning team for most of Scottie's rookie contract. We got the first year good. The second year is a failure. Now, next year, we cannot be a losing team again, because if we continue to have losing seasons, that is what will make him lose. It won't be because of the fans. It won't be because of any out-of-pocket, stupid-ass shit we're saying about Siakam or Fred. It will be because we're not winning, and he wants to be on a winning team. So that's the thing we got to worry about the most. It's not us. We can't control us. We're stupid. We're crazy. We're a crazy, big, huge organism of weird-ass fucking people in a big amalgamation as a fan nation. And in some ways, you cannot control that in any way. And the fans are, that's known that the players know that they can't control us, and they just shut us out. So I really am not worried about this. And as far as him staying in Canada, he's likely to want to stay here just because, first of all, we can pay him the most. As long as we're winning, he'll want to stay. So that's the way I look at it at this point. He's making a ton of money either way. And you know what? There is a strong affinity for Toronto at this point now because we're like his first girlfriend in a way. We're his first NBA team and hopefully his only NBA team. And in some ways, there is a very strong bond that gets taken to with that. When you go to the NBA draft and you put on the hat of the team that you put it on, that really does bond you pretty quickly if things are all set up and going smooth. So concerns about Scottie's future and what he's going to decide later, it really is going to have to do with whether we're winning or not. I don't think it'll have to do with the fans at all. It'll have to do with the winning and the money. And we can pay him the most money, so the money's taken care of. So Duke's saying not overly upset about Siakam isn't an all-star. Last year, yes. This year, no. So not so much. If you ain't a superstar and your team sucks, even if you're having an all-NBA season, sorry, but this is normal. Yeah. I mean, in some ways, the stats are more empty if you're losing. That's part of the problem with losing, is that you can have really good stats, but you're on an expansion team that's really bad and has a bad record. It's really hard to look at those stats in a quality way when somebody's got to fill stats up for a team and you're not winning. It doesn't add up to winning. That's a big problem. It's a big, big problem. Logical saying, first, I don't think Masai ever gives the Supermax. It's impossible to build around. Second, Siakam would need first team or MVP to unlock Supermax before 10 years in the league. 30% max is what he's getting. Okay, Mike knows the numbers, and I trust his view of what's going on with that picture. And yeah, I mean, it does mean less money for him. But that's interesting that you're saying that you don't think Ujiri would give the Supermax to anybody. He just doesn't do that. Okay, interesting. Well, we'll have to see how this all works. This bad season this season may affect things that happen with our team and our salary cap because contracts may be different because they didn't make incentives, bonuses, and stuff like that. So very interesting. Seymour saying, I never had it, don't ever want it, and wouldn't even wish it on my enemies. What about that last one? Laugh out loud. Just kidding. Wait about that last one. You know, Seymour, thank goodness you've never had COVID, and I hope you continue to not have COVID. But the statistics say it's pretty likely, especially if you're out and about and you're around people, that everybody's going to get it at least once. It may be that you got it and you didn't even know it. I feel like that happened to me at the beginning. I had a really bad illness before the pandemic even started for like 2 weeks. And it was a lot of the same symptoms. And then Rudy Gobert and Utah Jazz and the Raptors thing happened, and they shut down the NBA. And I was like, well, I was really sick like a month ago. I wonder if I had it before, early or something. I don't know. Let's see. Jay Conda's saying, I agree, logical Raptors fanatic. It was his for the taking. Masai ain't paying max unless, I don't know, maybe top 5 in the NBA. Yeah, I mean, we want to be smart. You're putting a very huge investment in one player. You really want to make sure it's a sure thing and a sure bet, and no messing around with that kind of a block of money being tied up on your roster build. Yeah, very, very important. Monique's saying fans sending me trade talks and I still try to avoid it. Yeah, I mean, I see on your Facebook posts, people are in the chat or in your comments of some of your posts, very interesting ideas being put forth by some of your friends. Monique, I do see that stuff. I see your posts and I see kind of what's going on there. Duke Rocks is saying, not pointing eight fingers. I honestly feel this season has been a strategic tank worthy of an Oscar. Yes, even when losing, we're winning Oscars for acting like we're trying this year, and we're really losing on the down low. I mean, Duke, in some ways, I see a lot of evidence for what you think as far as like this team's way more capable. This team can't be this bad at losing close games right now. There is something strategic in losing this season, considering this draft. And, things weren't going right anyway. Well, go even further in that direction. I don't know. If we lose to Houston tonight, that will be a sign that I think you may be right. That there's no business losing to an Eric Gordon-led Houston Rockets that has this build on their team. That if we do figure out a way to lose to them tonight, I'm going to be like, Duke Rocks, you know what? I think we maybe do deserve an Oscar for acting. Yeah. Cool Cat saying, and Pascal is not at Allstar. I'm not watching the game. I will only watch Scottie's game, and that's it. I'm with you, Cool Cat. I'm exactly with you. In fact, I might start saying this about like all 3 of the All-Star nights. I'll watch the night where there's Raptors representation. And if there isn't any Raptors representation, this is just a waste of my time. The dunk contest and the 3-point shootout and all the Saturday night of festivities are pretty shitty to a degree sometimes. The Rising Stars is usually on Friday night. So we'll watch that on Friday night. And then Thursday, depending on who the entrants are, I think Utah's going to be in the 3-point shootout, though. So I might want to watch it just because of Utah in the 3-point shootout. But Sunday, if there's no Raptor involved in the All-Star game, I'm not going to watch it. It's just a garbage, glorified exhibition game anyway. And in some ways, it's fun because they have the new stuff with the Elam ending or like the score to this score and all the charity stuff they're doing with winning quarters and stuff. That's fun and the picking of things. But in some ways, this is just my way of protesting a snub of our guy, Pascal. Is I don't want to fucking watch the game then. If a guy I know deserves to be in that game is not playing, then I don't want to fucking watch it. I'm with Cool Cat in that way. I really am. Nameless is saying neutered. Laugh out loud. The rules of the 80s were castrated. Yeah, well, that's true in some ways. It's like Charles Oakley came and showed up, and he was magically Charles Oakley when he was 25 years old. He'd come out there and he would get fouled out or thrown out of games for some of the contact that he would be putting out there. And they would be like, yeah, you can't do that anymore, Charles. The game has grown to a place of where we're a little fancy and we're a little bit not as tough and gritty as when you played. And yeah, we don't want you hitting guys out of the sky because we want them to be able to be on TV for dunks and highlights and money purposes. So you being a goon and coming in and like guy comes to the basket and you just hitting them and they fall to the ground. We can't have that anymore. We can't have you putting Ja Morant out for 3 months because he tried to sky on you. It's kind of like that. Cool Cat saying Pascal's loss of potential money is on front office and coach. I've never been so pissed off. Get well soon, Nameless. I haven't got COVID, still masked up outdoors because I'm trying to avoid it. Well, this is good. There's a couple of us that still haven't gotten COVID. That is really good. And it's kind of an accomplishment to a degree. And the things I know you just traveled to the islands and stuff like that. That's really fantastic, especially if you've been around airports and stuff like that. I know they're very safe in them too right now, but there's just so much high volume with people going through airports and stuff that I just worry because of the way that it transmits and stuff. But I'm glad you've taken precautions and you've been so lucky so far. I understand why you'd be pissed for Pascal. And in some ways, but listen, he's making so much money. It's absolutely crazy. And in some ways, I know this may be bad because I'm a fan of the Raptors first. I love all the individual Raptors in their own ways. But first and foremost, my allegiance is to the team. And in some ways, Siakam not hitting benchmarks for him to get more money in contracts in some ways helps the team with their budget, with how they figure things out later. So in some ways, this may actually be good for the team, not necessarily good for Pascal as an individual financially, but in some ways, it may be good for the Raptors overall because we don't have to carve out as much money for Pascal because of the way his contract was layered with this. So I don't know. It's crazy. You can't say that Coach Nurse really messed him up because he's playing the hell out of him and giving him the best like minutes to try and do better. It's just the team's not performing. And I guess you could blame the front office in that way. But, Nick's giving Pascal as much time on the court to make the production and play really well to be an all-star. So in some ways, I can't blame Nick, but I could see blaming the front office. I mean, you could blame Nick because the team didn't win and the record's not good enough. And that's why Siakam didn't make the all-star, I guess. Yeah, I guess you could blame Nick too. I guess you could. Logical is saying a supermax is literally 35% of the salary cap. So one guy making that much hurts our ability to build a good team around them. The Lakers have 35% max players. So 105% of their cap is on 3 players. That is insane. So they pay 105% to LeBron, Russell, and Anthony Davis. And there's like breadcrumbs for every single other player on their roster build. No wonder the Lakers are so bad. This is exactly a cautionary tale of don't get 3 supermax guys because you won't have anybody else on your team. You'll have like 12 dudes that are Stanley Johnson, and that's just your life. And this is why you cannot win because usually one of your 3 supermax guys is out at any given time. You're either going to have LeBron out or Davis usually, or maybe even Russell. So yeah, this is interesting. And like I said, Mike's comment kind of echoes what I was just saying. That in some ways, yeah, this hurts Siakam, and I hate that he's not getting exactly what he could get. But in some ways, I'm glad because this is better for the Raptors' financial situation going forward. In some ways, and how they pay everybody. I mean, Siakam's going to get paid a huge amount of crazy money that we will never see in our lifetime anyway. So it's like quibbling over like 5-10 million. I'm sorry, I can't feel sorry for Siakam on that. He's going to get paid no matter what. He's making $30 million a year right now. So it's like, Space Cadet is saying Fred tweeted about Pascal not making the All-Star game, and trashy fans in the comments are blaming Fred. That's fucked up. See, that's the thing that pisses me off. These people are fucked up. And you know what? Listen, I wouldn't blame Fred if he got pissed off and he wanted to leave because we've been so awful to him this year. And maybe that's what Cool Cat's talking about. It's like they see how bad we treat Fred. This guy's kind of like, I hate that. I hate how much people are so emboldened to contact people straight directly and be awful to them. Like they're so rude. Dude, you would not say some of the things you're saying to Fred if you saw him in first person. You would say in a comment, you're a keyboard warrior. You can say all the fuck you want in a response on Twitter, but you're not going to fucking say that shit to him in his face, even if you're a half foot taller than him. I'm telling you right now, you would not say that shit to his face. So have some respect and dignity for that person in the way you would if you saw them in real life. And like, stop coming at people with disrespect personally like that. Like the stuff I'm seeing between Shanika Young and the fans about Thad Young is disgusting. Some of the people are coming at him and saying he's garbage and he should never be on the Raptors in the first place. And Shanika's actually getting engaged with them in the comments and talking trash back with them. This is such a bad trend with social media and the fans and the team. I hate this. This needs to stop. And I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to fix toxicity in interaction in social media places between fans and family of players and players. It's really, really bad. It needs to stop. And I hate that, hearing that, what Space Cadet's saying, that the fans are coming in and coming right at Fred and talking shit to him. That's fucked up. And they shouldn't blame Fred. Honestly, the way he's played recently, this man has been our leader and he's played so well recently. Duke saying Fred has been a beast on this road trip. How people blaming Fred? Crazy fans. Fred dealing with injuries all season, but this road trip, he looks healthy. He looks fantastic. That's what Nick said. If he's going to the basket like he had been in the last game, that means he's feeling real good. If he can go in there and do these crazy layups and in the middle of everybody, that's usually a sign that Fred's very healthy and that his knees aren't bothering him at all. So that's good. That's good. Cool Cat saying NBA wants to make money by growing. yeah, I think that if they do, they want to get more international. They should be having representation of the only international team in their league. Forgetful saying, not going back, going forward. Skill level is higher than ever, except no one has Kareem's shot. Nothing more boring than a player getting close to the 3-point line, 5 seconds to the shot clock, and shooting. Okay, you're saying we're not going back, we're going forward. Like, you mean that there's more likely not taking away the 3-point line, we'll get a 4-point line down the road. I like, in some ways, I like the style of today's game being so up tempo and so fast paced and like shoot shots really early in the shot clock, because in some ways it's a very exciting thing because there's so much scoring and it's happening so quickly. And that the old grinded out Eastern Conference, like 80 points or 70 points a game style, is very much use the whole entire shot clock and like grind and make a shot right at the end of the last shot clock. It's like limit the possessions. It's a different philosophy in the way what coaches were trying to do as far as when they score in the shot clock. Before, it very much was, you don't want to shoot early in the shot clock. You really want to draw the shot clock out as close to 24 seconds as possible. Well, now it's the exact opposite how they value it. They want to get shots in within the first 5-6 seconds of the shot clock and maximize as many possessions as possible for the whole entire 48 minutes. So it's very, very interesting about that aspect with the difference between the 90s NBA and NBA today. The value of when you shoot in the 24-second shot clock is changed. It's flipped. So it's very interesting. All right, let's keep going. Monique is saying, Happy Heritage Month. Don't forget to educate yourself. Black History Month. Go Raptors always, regardless. Yes, February is a great month for this, but honestly, any month of the year, we should be celebrating this kind of stuff and talking about it no matter what. And I'm very happy that we put this on blast this month. But there's people that have contributed at all kinds of different times, every kind of way, and we should have this happen all the time. And I'm not just even talking about Black people. I'm talking about people of all types, from all backgrounds. There should be people's achievements should be put on blast no matter what, all the time. But I am very happy about the Raptors organization and the things they do to recognize Black Heritage Month being February and stuff like that. There's been all kinds of cool projects the Raptors have been doing this season. I really like that Spadina House Afrofuturism art exhibit with some of our Raptors in the art pieces like Precious and Champagne and Malachi. In the pictures painted in and stuff like that. It's just so interesting. And to celebrate Black leaders and people that have done great things. Yeah, there's all kinds of good stuff happening this month. But once again, it shouldn't be just limited to the shortest month of the year. This is something that we should honor and show respect and proudness towards all 12 months of the year, is how I feel about it. Logical is saying the difference in amount is like 30% is max 40 million and 35% max is closer to 50 million. Trust, Spicy is good. Yeah, he's going to make a lot of money no matter what. But, in some ways people will be like, well, everybody wants to make more money. I don't know. I'm such a not greedy guy. I'm like, dude, you're making so much money. In some ways, I want the Raptors to have more flexibility with their cap and not have to owe Siakam so much money. So in some ways, this may be working out in our favor. Everything in life, you want to make it a no-lose scenario. Sure, Pascal, maybe it's sad you're not making this money, but think about the sacrifice you're making for the team to allow for us to keep more of the guys in an equal pay scale and have more really good players on this team, because you don't want to hold us down and anchor us too much with the money so that we can't get enough good quality players on the team to win, because that's ultimately what matters the most. It's not how much Siakam makes, honestly. Let's see. Duke is saying, if Fred makes it past the trade deadline or sign and trade, the Raps see him as a core piece in their future and will be signed. The whole positionless vision is where I can see him being traded. Yeah, it's like I did a piece when I first started this channel called Fred VanVleet. Does he fit in with a positionless scheme? And my deduction at that time, and this is before last season that I made that content, was that Fred does, because he plays bigger than himself. In some ways, sure, his listed height is right around 6 foot, maybe a little shorter. And but he plays way bigger, and we see it when he's guarding low post guys recently. You see he didn't have any problem muscling up with somebody like, who was it the other day? We were playing Utah. I saw him guarding Kessler at one point, or somebody like Markkanen, and he's like, or Olnick, he's like holding them in the low post because of a switch, and it's not really a detriment as far as, because he's savvy and smart and he can hit the ball out of people's hands really quick. So that in some ways he's kind of like, in some ways he's like the exception to the rule as far as with our position 6'9", our vision 6'9", is that if we have everybody on the team vision 6'9" in positionless, Fred may be the only guy on the team other than a center at the top that is not fitting that category. And I'm totally for that. In fact, I like that because in some ways we really do need a small point guard still on this team no matter what. That's just a requirement for an NBA roster build, that you need a small point guard. You can't go completely positionless, the whole entire roster. You're going to need a little guy for little guy reasons, and Fred could be that guy. In fact, you probably need two little guys still. So Malachi's fine too, but it's really just to chase around other little guys easier in some ways. And also, we found that we do need a real true point guard this season. That Scottie's not ready to just take over and be like a true point guard for himself. That we need a transition period of time, and that it's not going to happen overnight. So in some ways, Freddie is essential. But I think you're right, Duke, that if Fred survives this trade period and survives this next little part of the season, that he is in our long-term plan still, and that we will be putting him on an extension this summer. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that's logically sounds like it just makes sense. If he's not moved now, then you know what? He's probably sticking around for good. Seymour saying, what is your take on that pic Fred posted with him and Booker? Is it a sign or water under the bridge? I saw something. I don't know exactly what that is. Let me go to Fred's Twitter. I think it was on his Twitter, right? I just want to look at the picture so I can react to it in person and see what I think it means. Is it even on here still? You should check. I don't think it's on. It's not there. Anyway, I think I kind of saw what you're talking about. I wouldn't read into it at all. I don't know. I don't know. It's basically him with Devin Booker, and they're like hugging or talking or something. I know there were overtures that Pheonix does really want Fred, but in some ways it doesn't make sense to me because they have Chris Paul already, and it's like he's kind of older. I don't know. It just doesn't totally make sense why they want him. I know that when Parlay, his documentary came out, that was the team that was really talking to him heavily about getting him from us when his last contract was up, and that it was between Toronto and Pheonix. So Pheonix was in the consideration of him going there, at least in that Parlay documentary. There was a very heavy talk with it, but they decided to go with Chris Paul at that time and sign him to a contract instead of Fred. And that I don't know if that has something to do with it, because people know that Fred wanted to go to Pheonix possibly when his last contract was up because of that documentary. I don't know. I'm not going to read into this too much. I mean, what is going to happen is going to happen. We just got to wait and see. And if something weird happens and he does go to Pheonix, then we'll know there were signs ahead of time that was what was going to happen. Go Gadget Raptor. I like that name. That makes me think of the old cartoon Inspector Gadget. What a great cartoon. Da, 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 da. Inspector Gadget. Da, 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 woo-hoo. Yes. Honestly, it kind of sucks that Pascal didn't make it. But at the same time, the East is stacked when it comes to front court players. Also, goddamn, Tyrese Haliburton is having a hell of a year. Cool. I like that. Go Gadget Raptor. Great name and great first comment coming in here. We welcome you, and we hope we see you as a regular here on the Raptor Freak channel going forward. I know it does suck. In some ways, we thought he would get it. And in some ways, in the past, we would feel more slighted. If we were a winning team, we would feel super slighted right now. I think I would be way, way more upset if we were one of the top 6 or 7 teams in the Eastern Conference right now. But I can't, because we have no legs to stand on as far as with the performance of our team overall to get that indignant and upset about Pascal not making the All-Star team. We can understand why. And if there was no good reason why, I would be out in the streets. Whoa, but otherwise, we can understand that. And yeah, Halliburton's having a hell of a year. Indiana started really strong and fast, but they are fading now. They've lost a lot of games recently, and they are dropping in the standings. Some of these teams that have done so well this season have continued to do pretty well, but they could start to drop, and them dropping could actually help us if we're starting to win more again and elevating us in the standings. So if the Pacers continue to lose, I'm all for it because they could be below us. I am not in Florida. I know I'm in a different location than my house. I am actually back at Adriana's house right now. I just came to visit her for the weekend because her father left town. And with her situation, it's better for her to have someone around the house with her because of her dealing with epilepsy. So I'm just here as friends, and I'm just here hanging out with her for the weekend, just to catch up with her and see her because I haven't seen her at all hardly since New Year's, since we broke up. So I'm really kind of over here just kind of like hanging out and catching up with her and being here for her while her father is on a trip away. So it's just kind of to it's really just, because we're sure she's by herself and she has a seizure. She doesn't even know that it happens. So in some ways, it's good for somebody to be around her just because of her epilepsy. So that's really why. Let's see. Logical saying casuals be wild. I got video evidence coming on that Thad mold and behind the scenes role. Bench development and true NBA greatness mindset and tapping in the raw source and bring the video and audio truth. You go, Mike. Looking forward to your drop at 2:00 tomorrow. Mike, logical Raptors fanatic, always putting Project Truth out there on blast. Tell them the truth about Thaddeus Young and his career in the NBA and why he is special. All these youngsters who just showed up around the 2019, you guys do not have any idea how long this man's been playing in the league. He may have been playing in the league longer than you've been alive. So just hush your mouth, youngsters. You need to respect an old head like Thaddeus Young and know that he is an important part of the Raptors roster right now and a leader, and y'all need to put respect on his name. That's what I'll say about that. Duke Rocks is saying, I keep hearing Clutch come up in association with the Raps. Do you think Clutch's reputation will be a thorn in Masai's side? All right, this is a great question by Duke Rocks. We now have representation of Clutch for Nick Nurse, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr., and Christian Koloko. Now, two of those guys are very important with the extensions coming up right now, Gary and Fred. Obviously, Fred just switched from Parlay to Clutch. Now, what I will say is this. The fact that Nick Nurse, the fact that OG, all these guys that are important on our roster have to do with Clutch is good because we have a good working relationship with Omar and Rich Paul and the Clutch organization. That Masai and Bobby have dealt with them a lot in the last couple of years. In fact, they helped renegotiate OG's last contract and Gary's last contract, the contract that he signed with us when after that summer after he came here. That they were both pretty fair deals at that time, and that I found that Clutch was easy to work with, and that they were very good at what they do with finding the meeting point for the player, the team, and what they want with the money all together in the right spot. So I like that Clutch represents a lot of people around our organization. I was worried at a certain time because of LeBron James' connection to it. There may be some sort of like conflict of interest. But I have found that when looking at the contracts that were negotiated for OG and Gary in the last contract cycle for them, that was very fair and that Clutch was not bad to deal with the Raptors front office. So I'll say that I'm actually optimistic and happy that Clutch is involved because they have a good track record of working things out with us in a fair way. So that's my take on that, Duke. It's not a bad thing. And, I think that because Nick Nurse is also involved in this as far as being a Clutch client, that's part of it also. And then in some ways, the bigger picture is that they don't want to break things up and greed. That in some ways, they're the agency, they're not just money grubbers that come in and say, we got to get you absolutely the most money possible. In some ways they are like that, but in some ways also being a good agency is listening to your clients and what they want. And what they want is usually the most important thing that the agency is trying to work towards with their agents. So it's like Omar listens to OG and says, OG, this is what you care about. Okay, well, I'll try and work in your representation to get what you care about the most. And if Nick Nurse cares about the team winning, well, he wants a fair contract and he wants to get paid the right amount. But in some ways, he won't hurt the team. Well, the same thing with the players. Fred, when he does his renegotiation, he's probably got to think about, well, this is what I want for me personally in the selfish way. But also, I want to make sure this team is still in a healthy place to build a good roster so that we can win. And this is the reason why Spurs like Ginobili and Duncan and Parker took less money on contracts. So the Spurs could go and get better players around them and have a better chance to win overall. Now, if Fred VanVleet and Gary and OG and Clutch are more like Duncan and Ginobili, and they say, guys, we want to help the Raptors build a good team. Can you negotiate with that in mind, please? I think that's likely because in a lot of ways, these guys are smart and they're all brothers. They want everybody to get paid, but they don't want to be too greedy themselves where they take too much so that not everybody can get paid and that we don't have a good team because they were too greedy and they ate up too much of a percentage of our salary cap. So I really do kind of trust that, Clutch with working with us just because of what they did with the last Gary contract was fantastic for us. You look at the Gary contract that he was on these last couple of years, and it was a fantastic price. The same thing with OG. We've been paying OG how much the last couple of years? That is what negotiating with Clutch got us. A good price on OG and Gary. So I'm not worried about dealing with them. Go Gadget Raptor saying at Duke, most likely Clutch is for player empowerment. Don't try to just get the player the most money. Also try to position their client in the best situation for the next contract, i.e. the OG situation. Yeah, I think that Gadget Raptor is reiterating a little bit of what I was just saying, but in a more specific way. They want to empower the client to get what they want and what they want in their career. And that in some ways they really do look at the long term of what they're going from this contract into maybe this contract later and how they can plan their career to get those marks to hit higher totals later. But I think that's a really good add-on to what I was just saying with Go there. Cool Cat saying, I like Pascal Siakam for his story, his character, and he's homegrown, developed. That would make a story for Hall of Fame for our team too, for marketing purposes. I want us to get Golden State Warriors legendary status. Yes. I love everything about that. It's true. Siakam's story is so unique and weird and interesting in some ways. He really did come from nowhere. When I saw him show up on the team as a rookie, I didn't think he'd become an all NBA player. I didn't think he'd be an all-star. I thought he would be a really good role player, and I didn't even know if he'd be a starter, y'all. I thought he was going to be like a bench mob dude for most of his career, like he was in the bench mob. But no, he's way more than that. And in some ways, that is a super crazy, amazing story, a very inspiring story. And, as much as Chris's documentary that's out right now is inspiring people because of his story, Siakam's story is just as inspiring too. And I love what you're saying about us becoming more legendary status. Well, this would have to come with, us a dynasty, us winning some championships, stringing them in a row over a period of time. Then we can get up there and get like that, like the Spurs, like the Warriors, like the old classic Chicago Bulls. That's what we need to do. And that's why we need to get our shit together and get back to being more top of the league and in contention for championships. Because we win more championships, then our team will get more shine like the Warriors. That's what we got to do. Fun guy saying, actually logical, calling people casuals, really? Your Thad stuff is based on what's supposed to be. We aren't in locker rooms to see benefit. What's factual is Thad fighting with Scottie, telling meeting secrets. Ooh, all right. We got a little bit of a back and forth here. All right. I'm gonna pick sides on this one. First of all, Fun guy, I love you. You're fantastic, but you're mischaracterizing a couple things that happened here. I understand he said some shit to the interviewers about the team meeting the other day that Nick Nurse got upset about. I think that was mostly harmless, and Nick's just being real hard ass. And so I wouldn't be too upset about what Thad said. In fact, I like what he said because it was good, and we ended up winning the next game after that. And you know what? In some ways, sure, he shouldn't be telling open closed door meeting stuff to the press. and he might have fucked up in that way, but it was harmless and it didn't really hurt the team. And Nick maybe was an opportunity for Nick to tell him to tighten up on what he's telling the press or not. So that in a way, that's good. The thing that happened with him and Scottie that was on camera at that halftime shoot around was good. I'm going to tell you that right now. Thaddeus carrying and dogging him out and getting in his face like that was a good thing. Because what he was saying to him is, I really care about you being the best player that you can be, and I want you to listen to me. He's trying to get it through to him. It's like, I care about you, and I want you to do good. And maybe he was trying to motivate him or fire him up in some ways. That whole incident is like, it's not totally clear what happened. Some people are saying the incident was actually between Scottie and Gary, that they had gotten in a fight in the shoot around, and Thad was coming in to intervene and tell Scottie he was fucked up for what he did to Gary. And I don't know if that's totally true, that that's how it went down, but some people are saying that that's kind of how it went down, that it was Thaddeus actually coming to stand up for Gary Trent Jr. in an altercation with Scottie. And I don't think there's a problem with Scottie and Gary. They love each other. It may have been just something stupid that happened. But I really love that Thad showed so much fire and caring and coming at Scottie like that. It's like, if he didn't care, I would be more worried. So I don't have a problem with any of that. I think Mike can call people casuals. Listen, he's put in the work to look at a lot of stuff, and he understands things on a whole other level than a lot of us. He understands things on a level that I don't understand. So I have to respect that, because he really does know the numbers and he's done the research. So him calling people casuals is fair, because these people ain't doing that shit, and he is more learned. So I think he can throw that card around. I will say that right now, fun guy. Yeah, I don't know. As far as everything, I think that what Mike's doing is really worthwhile, and that it's important. And I'm glad he's fighting part of this fight of Project Truth, because we do need more people out there putting out stuff like he's doing. So I got to be with Mike on this one completely. He has the right to call people casuals for sure. And the stuff that Thad did, there's nothing wrong with what Thad's doing. Thad's a great leader. I love Thad. It looks like conflict and looks crazy, and maybe he is causing a little bit of problems. But I think that overall, he's much more a net positive on the team. Duke's saying, I hope that's the case, Go-Go. My focus was mostly on Nurse. This has been a strange season with Nurse. Just makes me wonder what's going on with him. Clutch conspiracy theory. Yeah, I think in some ways it's smart that he's represented by Clutch, because in some ways he's bonded with the players because he has the same representation in some ways. I think that also Clutch is becoming such an entity that's so like respected and works well in the league, that in some ways that they're actually one of the best representations to have. And then it may be actually a good thing. I don't know. We'll have to see how a contract negotiation goes with Nick Nurse the next time around with Clutch involved, and whether he's trying to gouge us for a bunch of money or not, or what they're going to do with this for the next contract thing. So with him, it's a little different than the players, because it operates kind of with it not inside the salary cap. I don't know exactly how the coach's salary adds to the expenses of the team. And I don't think it goes into the salary cap at all. But there may be still factors that have to be considered financially with how much you pay your coach. As far as like things, I don't know exactly. Mike probably knows better than me. Excuse me. But yeah, this has been a very strange season. Nick Nurse, it's not been smooth for him. And in some ways, he seems very upset and not very happy this whole entire season. But it probably has way more to do with how the teams played and the outcome of how things have been going. Go Gadget Raptor saying at Cool Cat, Golden State Warriors status is tough when they literally have two of the best 3-point shooters of all time. It's not an easy feat. Yeah, but we're up for it, Go Gadget. We never really ever thought we'd win a championship. Well, we did the impossible. Well, we can do it some more. I really do believe in this team and Masai Ujiri and his vision and his drive to win. And I think that this will happen for us somehow, some way. We will find another way to get another Larry O'Brien. So don't count us out for this, even if we don't have Steph Curry or Klay Thompson. So, yeah, it's going to be a little tougher, but we may find our way in a different way, like with Precious and Scottie. Logical saying, fun guy, you're right on my mold stuff, but Thad has a big role behind the scenes, and I got Thad showing his value directly with the mold stuff. I was saying I will be able to explain it better with the video. Yeah, he does have a very important role, and he is a part of the leadership hierarchy on this team. in certain ways. Young people that think that Thad was wrong for dogging Scottie out in that moment, you don't know what was happening. You don't know what he was saying. In some ways, maybe you're feeling it from like an old person dogging you out in your life. Like old people, you need to stop dogging out young people is what you're feeling like. No, listen, he is educated and learned from years of experience. And young people, you're better off listening to the old head and not just disregarding him and saying, "What, fuck you, old guy, trying to tell me what to do. I'm a young person." No, they're wise and they have made mistakes that you don't want to make. And then maybe you can avoid if you actually listen to them. So that's what I'm trying to say. Everything that Thad tried to say to Scottie in that moment was probably cautionary in trying to help him to be a better teammate and a better player. Scottie's weird because he does have an aggressive kind of like wild edge of competitiveness, and he is kind of like cocky. And he is very much like wanting to do like taunt shit and like do all kinds of stuff that could get him in trouble later on. So in some ways, there may be parts of Scottie's personality that needs to be reined in a little bit by the vets on our team. As far as like, you're a little out of pocket, Scott. We know you're a rising star and you're an amazing player and you're going to be absolutely probably better than most of us on this team, but you still are immature in some ways. And there's a certain level of maturing that you're going to have to get as a player also, not just as a player but as an individual in your own life. And that's not a slight. You're 21 years old, you're a kid, and you're going to learn. And Scottie at 25 may be a whole different kind of personality in person than he is at 21 in some ways. So we don't know what Scottie's going to become, but we want to mold him into a great young man who's very smart and does the best things he can in the game to win. And in some ways, the extra theatrics, the trash talk, the showmanship is not good for helping to win. It really isn't. And that's what I'm saying. Randolph saying, blessings, beloved Raptors freak, most informative gang. It's game day. Would be watching to see if Pascal goes off tonight. Ooh, that's right. Randolph wants to see if he has some fight because he's pissed off that he got snubbed. This will be very interesting. What if Siakam comes out there and drops a 50 piece just because it's the Rockets and and he's pissed off because of yesterday? Yeah, I like that. Okay, fun guy saying, when Thad first came, team was raving about vet presence, but don't hear much in constant fashion indicating he hasn't meant much. All he's got is longevity, not much actual resume, not the vet we need, to be honest. This, once again, I got to completely disagree in this one. All due respect, fun guy. I love you. You're one of my original Raptor freaks, and we're just going to have to disagree on this one. No, he has a resume that's very, very good. He's been a very good scorer. There's some things that he's done like down low that we've seen recently that's unstoppable. That little left hook is so good. And you're not remembering years that he had in Philadelphia, in Chicago, and different places where he was a double-digit scorer. He was a starter, and he was a very valued NBA player, like in general. It's not like he's a scrub. It's not like he's a guy who didn't ever get to play. He's gotten consistent minutes most of his career. And he's always been like when he was younger, he was a double-digit scorer, and he's a versatile player. Once again, Bobby and Masai have said that Thaddeus Young is kind of the blueprint for Vision 6'9". That when he came into the league in the 2000s, because he's been around 17 years, he was the first kind of guy that kind of made them look at like 6'9" as being like something they want to do, a versatile guy that can do everything at his height. And that he is the original prototype. And it's just kind of come full circle that he's on our team now. That Masai and Bobby wanted to get him like in 2015. They wanted him on the Raptors for a long, long time. And we finally landed him. And sure, it's at near the end of his career and he's older, but you cannot sully his career. The fact that he's played 17 years in this league, it shows that he's a survivor and that he adapted and he's a good player. You don't play in the league for 17 years if you're a bad player. If you don't have use, at some point you get left and you're gone. Well, this dude is stuck around this time, and that means something. That's an accomplishment in itself. I know that it's going to the longevity, but you have to be good to be able to have that longevity. So the presence is different, and we don't see enough of what he's actually doing behind the scenes. You've got to understand, on the buses, on the planes, in the team meetings, in the interactions in the lobby, in the hotel room, there is always little things that is probably doing as a leader on this team that you don't realize that is super, super valuable. So that's what I'll say. It's one of the reasons why they got him. really is the veteran stuff. And we just don't see it all. We don't get to see it, and we shouldn't, because it's proprietary and inside the house with the team, and it's just their business. But there may be times when Thaddeus has had to be a tough leader on the team and talk to some of the younger players and say, you can't do this anymore. We don't do this in this league. This is the NBA. And that's the stuff we're not hearing or seeing as it should be. So you might be surprised just how much of a leader he is behind the scenes. You may be very shocked actually at what he does. I saw there's a clip actually from that last open gym, and the one that came out last week from the practice that they did. And there's a moment in it where Thad takes like 5-10 minutes of talking to all the players on the court at that time. And his talks at Rico Hines after the game, that one time when Rico got him to talk, was very meaningful and powerful also for that crew at Rico Hines last summer. So don't underestimate what Thad's saying and what he's doing and how much of an impact he's having. Monique saying MLSE working on mixed reality tech to enhance fan experience and help its teams win. Whoa, this is interesting. I saw something about this, just a blurb about virtual reality experience at the Scotiabank Arena, that this is kind of the future wave of enhanced like reality in your game experience, that you go to the game and you get to put on some sort of virtual reality, and maybe it adds some weirdness around or something. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but this is the future, an enhanced reality at NBA games. And I do not know exactly what that will entail, but I am hearing the grumblings about this kind of stuff going on at Scotiabank Arena. So this could be very interesting. We see something as soon as next year as far as with this. Forgettable saying team needs tier 1 point guard for 48 minutes. That's why I would keep Fred and trade to get Scoot. Scottie's best up front. Bet on developing Koloko as main big. Keep Precious, OG Chris, and Siakam if possible. I love that whole list of what you're saying right there. I really want to get Scoot Henderson. That'd be badass. And I do agree. Scottie's better up front right now. If we need him as a backup point guard just because of the need, then sure. But otherwise, like, I think he's just so much more capable and doing good things down low in the low post, that him having the ball handling responsibilities, maybe not using him in the best potential way. And that's why I want to keep him down low and maybe not carrying the ball. Go Gadget Raptor saying Thad about to be traded anyways. That may be true also. Who knows? I mean, we'll see. I don't know. They may not even deal with any of the little guys. I think if we do a trade, it's going to be a big name. It's going to be one of our main 5 guys, one of the starters. Fun guy saying, sorry, Lex, but I think you are wrong on that situation. Siakam and Wancho tried holding him back and kept going. Scaring a 21-year-old is never good. There are very bad implications to that situation. All right, I know it looked bad, but remember after the game and after everything, they said they love each other. They're brothers, and that this kind of stuff happens on teams all the time. It's just that it doesn't normally happen right out in front of everybody in the middle of the shoot around at halftime. And that, I know it looked bad as far as Wancho and Siakam trying to get in between them, but this is the thing. Thad really, really cared. And that's all he said, was saying to him, I really care about you and I really want you to do well. That's what he was yelling at him. It wasn't anything like I dogging him out or anything. He's like, I care about you. I want you to do well, is what he's yelling at him. And Scottie's kind of just like being dismissive. He's like, oh, get out of my face. But in some ways, maybe Thad just needed him to show that I recognize that you're saying this to me. And Scottie was kind of ignoring him, or maybe not like giving him the, like, I heard you kind of like acknowledgement. And that's why Thad was maybe coming at him. He's saying, look, you got to respect, I'm an old head and I know what I'm talking about. And please listen to me. And maybe got a little more frustrated than he needed to. But that fire, that desire is all from the right place. It's not a negative, bad place. It's, I really care. And I want you to be the best player you can be, Scottie. And then after the game, the way they talked about him, they're fine. Everything's fine with the two of them. They love each other. They're like brothers. And that whatever Thad was saying to him may actually help Scottie. I think we just misinterpreting or reading the situation a little different, you and I. And there was nothing but love and positivity in that exchange, even if it looked really bad optically. That was really, Thad was in the right place. And in some ways, maybe Scott was not in the right place in that situation. And maybe he needed to listen to his vet, is what I'm saying. But, it just looked really bad. And of course, everybody's going to pull it and make it a bigger deal than it is. And it wasn't a big deal at all. It really wasn't. And a couple of days after that, they were laughing about it. It was just silly. All right, let's see. Duke is saying Nurse is seen as one of the best coaches in the NBA. It's not about the money, but the perception of coaching in a bigger market, US based versus a Canadian market. That's what worries me about Clutch. Well, also remember he's the coach of Team Canada. So it doesn't make any sense, seriously. And Nick Nurse is very, very much on the record saying Canada is his home, Toronto is his home, and I am not worried about Nick leaving. In fact, Masai, like I said, Masai's groomed Nick Nurse to be the coach of the Raptors since 2013. That was the secret down low underneath Casey, that Nick Nurse was his assistant that was going to take his job eventually, because Masai had ordained that Nick Nurse is his coach that he loves and he wants to be his coach of his team that he runs. He had figured that out decades ago before he even hired him, and that he kept him around in the Raptors organization as an assistant under Casey to take his spot. And nobody knew that. He didn't tell anybody that, but that is the truth the whole time. Then Masai and Nick have a very close relationship, and they're on the same page. And that's part of the bond that will keep him here, other than the fact that he's the coach of Team Canada and that he likes that gig too. Nick has no aspirations to go back to US. Let me just tell you that right now. He loves being in Canada, and Toronto is his home. If he has his way, in his destiny, he will be like Popovich, and he will coach the Raptors for 30 years and be here forever. So just so you know, the motivation of Nick Nurse is not to leave. He's very happy here. And the lure of the US or bigger markets. In fact, I would argue our market is just as big as any market in the US because we're all of Canada. And that Toronto is a great market, is a very big market. But besides that, you got the whole entire fucking country. So in some ways, our market is better and just as good as the New York market or the LA market in those kind of ways. So yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about Nick leaving. That's not somebody that I'm worried about leaving because of his relationship with Cy and the trust they have in each other, and the fact that he's the coach of Team Canada, and that's really a good sign that he is really ensconced in his job as the Toronto Raptors head coach. It's just true. I mean, what do they're going to leave? He's going to leave Toronto. He's going to continue to coach Team Canada. No, he won't. And he wants to have the prestige of coaching Team Canada. That's a very prestigious thing for him to do in his coaching career. So everything's working out for Nick. There's nothing that he wouldn't like and would make him want to leave. And it's the kind of thing like Masai and him have both been sought after by the rest of the league. And maybe there have been offers from other places to say, yeah, we will come. You want to come here, Masai, to Washington? We'll do this for you. And they've said no. They've stayed loyal to Toronto and they want to be here. So just trust in that, dude. If that can assuage any fears you have about Nick Nurse and him possibly going somewhere, I hope that illuminates more of the picture to let you understand his roots here are very strong. Go Gadget Raptor saying Scottie had zero cares for what Thad had to say because Scottie knows how talented he is. Scottie's personality is what makes Scottie Scottie. I think Pascal knows this, hence why he tried holding Thad back. Yeah, no, Scottie does care what Thad has to say. Listen, Scottie's an extremely sensitive young man in some ways, but he's also cocky and he can be very arrogant. That's the thing. In that situation, I think we're totally misinterpreting it. I think that Thad was really aggressive and trying to talk to him, and Scottie's just kind of being dismissive and just kind of, hey, get out of my face kind of like thing. It's like, come on, all right, is it that big of a deal? Come on, just get out of my face. Is kind of how he was acting. I think that he does respect Thad, and that if Thad tells him to do things, he listens. That's the thing. These young guys aren't like that. They're not so cocky. They're like, oh, we know everything. This is the thing. They're sponges and they're trying to learn. I mean, shit, if Scotty's going to listen to me in his Twitch in the comments and listen to my advice, he's going to fucking listen to Thad Young. So I'm not worried about him shutting out Thad or not listening to him, because he's definitely listening to him for sure. Because he listened to me. Why would he listen to old Raptors Freak through the comments on Twitch with his advice? If he's not going to listen to Thad. So he's not that cocky and arrogant that he doesn't take advice or leadership from older people. It's just not how it is. Let's see. Fun guy saying, Lex, I think you're feeling too relative to being a vet type guy. I think this is part of it on both sides. I think that this is what happens in this situation is I relate to Thad more than Scottie, and that young people relate more to Scottie than Thad. And because of that, I can see Thad's perspective of why he would do that and what he was trying to say. And then obviously young people are going to be like taking it more from Scottie's perspective. And maybe he's saying, oh, this old guy's just bugging me. It's like, get the fuck out of my face and just let me be myself. Well, there's a folly in that kind of attitude by a young person. Y'all need to listen to old heads, seriously, because we know what we're talking about. But it's true. I am feeling relative to Thad in this situation. And it is an age thing in some ways. Here's the perspective. Thad is merely 4 or 5 years older than Siakam and Boucher. Thad is being overstated. That was a character clash. No, well, in some ways, sure, it's a character clash in some ways, but not totally. It's not totally a character clash. No, that you're kind of discounting Thad's expertise. You got to understand, Thad's been in the league as long as Kevin Durant. Thad has been playing in the league since 2007. Siakam's been playing in the league since 2000, 15 or 14, 16 or something like that. It's not the same. He's got double the time as him. And not only that, Thad's been around so many different vets and pros over his career that he has a vast knowledge that should not be understated. And that's what you're doing here. And that's why I got to completely disagree on this. You may not see the value in Thad's veteran leadership and his experience, but it's very much there. Trust me. It is very much there. And yeah, he's got twice as much experience as Pascal. And not only that, Pascal's only played for one team, the Toronto Raptors. Thaddeus has played for like 6 or 7 teams and has been all over and seen it all. So I'm sorry, you're absolutely wrong with this. Thaddeus is a very, very important leader on this team, and he does add a lot of experience, and like he can tell people stories about players that he played with in the 2000s that have not played in 10 years. And that's a very big difference. Like he played against guys that have been long and retired so long ago, and he could talk about them. He can talk about playing Iverson. And none of these other guys that are on the team can talk about playing with Allen Iverson or against Allen Iverson. That's what I'm saying. You got to understand the perspective of time in this. 2007, 2015 for Siakam. So this is not, and plus Thad's played in the league where he's seen it's actually evolved so much. So he really does have kind of an perspective of the way it used to be played to how it is played now. So I think you're poo-pooing exactly how much this all has to do with this. And once again, we'll just agree to disagree on this, but it's an interesting conversation to have. It's an interesting conversation to have. Mike's saying, I'm going to talk on that open gym and expand on everything in that episode. They dropped tons of truth bombs on what the process is behind the scenes. I'm recording it after the stream. That's fantastic, Mike. In fact, I wish I'd watched that open gym episode from last week more than once, because I do feel like there is a lot of hidden stuff in there, especially with that scrimmage, that game between all those guys and what's happening in there with like a little bit of the conflicts with really caring about winning and stuff, the stuff that happens with Malachi and they're complaining about the fouls. And oh man, that's a great episode. And I'm glad you're going in there and analyzing it a little bit in a deeper way. I'll be really looking forward to that. Go Gadget Raptor saying, I'm forgetful. You trying to keep Fred, OG, Precious, Pascal, and want to draft Scoot at 2. So who's coming off the bench? Because Scoot will want to be a starter like Scottie from day one. Lakers been doing VR for people at home watching. Interesting. So the Lakers are already doing virtual reality stuff with their viewing experience. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the cutting edge, and that should be the next thing in arenas. Is more enhanced reality experiences at the home, at the games, and maybe even at home too. Like different TVs have different kind of settings and 3D and different weird things now, and that may be part of what's going on too with the home watching. Yeah. Let's see. You're trying to say who do we keep or how do we keep everybody around? If we want to get Scoot Henderson, and how do we balance things? Well, I guess some people got to go. On my list, I've said it a couple times this week, is Fred, OG, Precious, and Scottie and Chris. Gary and Pascal, if we trade them, I'm not in a very upset way in some ways with that. Like Gary in some ways needs to be traded just because of contract issues. And Pascal is a great trade piece. And in some ways, I feel like it would be like DeMar getting traded. We get certain person in return. We could be a champion next year is what I'm saying. So that's kind of what I'm looking at with that. I wouldn't have said trade Pascal until recently. There's just a couple things that are happening with him right now. They're making me wonder. And I don't know. Maybe I'm being stupid. Maybe I should just protect Pascal and say he's a champion. He was second banana with Kawhi. And he's too important from our championship history. I don't know. I'm really on the fence on with Siakam. And that's if something happens with Siakam, I'll know that it's like, okay, so be it. But if it doesn't, I'll be happy too. I guess I can't lose either way. Carlos saying, fellow freaks, thinking about this season, yeah, it's sad, but I think it's a good thing if we're looking for multiple championships. If it's better that we found the limitation of this roster. I think that's smart too. I mean, in some ways, if it's going to go bad and it's not going to be exactly perfect, well, really see where the faults are and really work on it and fix them in the offseason. Front office, coach with your schemes, whatever it is, players getting better. Yeah, I'm with you, Carlo. You get bad, you figure out where you need to get better. Cool Cat saying, we dream big like our president says. We will reach that status in the NBA like Golden State and the Spurs. I'm with you, Cool Cat. That is my dream, that by 2035, the Raptors have at least 3 championships, if not 5. I'd love to have 5 championships by 2035. If we could do that, that'd be a really tall order. And people may think I'm crazy for saying it, but why not? Anybody can do it. We can do it. Let's do it. If we can get 3 by then, that may be good enough. But I'd like to get 5 just because it'd be very similar to what the Spurs did. But it may be really tough to do. So, getting 3 may be good enough to be a dynasty. I don't know. We'll have to see when people will start saying, well, the Raptors are kind of a dynasty, because that's what I'd like to get. I'd like to have the word dynasty around our team at some point, like other great storied franchises in the NBA. Nameless saying, I know this may be hard to believe for some Americans, but some people just prefer Canada much, much more. Yeah, I do. I'm a dual citizen. I'm an American and a Canadian, and I have the option to live either in the States or in Canada. Well, I've lived in Canada for 10 years now. I moved to Canada during the Obama years. It was a great time to be in the US. I could have stayed in the States, but I hate the States, and I much prefer Canada. I don't care about cold weather, and that's usually the biggest difference is that. But I much rather live in Canada, and that is a decision I personally made. And I think this is true, Nameless. There's a lot of people that do think like I do. You may be shocked how many NBA players prefer Canada over the US just from having played here and like coming back. People like CJ Miles, Kyle Lowry, they love Canada. You would listen to CJ Miles talk about Toronto and his time here, and it sounds like this was his favorite place to play his whole entire NBA career. And CJ Miles was a journeyman. He played for a lot of different teams, and he has a really soft spot for Canada in Toronto. So I think the perception of Toronto being a detriment at this point is really dead. Like, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hearing it. And I know Masai says it too. Is like this whole thing about, Canada being too cold is stupid. New York's just as cold. Boston's just as cold. Chicago's just as cold. In some ways, they're colder in some ways. And that the taxes and all that stuff, figure that, all that, whatever. That's bullshit too. There's been all kinds of stupid excuses. And part of it is an information war to make people not want to play in Toronto and make us slighted or not a favorable destination by people that don't want Toronto to do well. But some of it's not true. It's just not factually true. Some of the knocks they have on playing for the Raptors. And that people are realizing more and more, there's way more positives and benefits to playing for the Raptors in some ways. It's true. Maybe in the beginning in 1995, there were a lot more headaches as far as with the border and taxes and figuring things out. But now the Raptors franchise has a department in it that's really good at acclimating new acquisitions to Canada and what they need to know and how to do everything here. The 905 guys have it at this level now. That's this point, our G League team gets treated with a program to help these young guys come to Canada, a foreign country, and be able to live here and acclimate and know how the things about the city and the country that are different than the US. We have very much a department in the Raptors organization that takes care of all this stuff for these guys. So it's a lot easier at this point than maybe it was in the late 90s when people were knocking it and saying, this is such a headache to come up to Canada and do all this. Well, we made it a lot smoother and easier for people in that adjustment. All right, let's see what Fun Guy's saying. I got you, Lex, but what you're saying is still a character clash. That's relative to ego, wanting to be heard. I perceive that situation in all possible aspects. That was wrong when other vets holding him back. Well, maybe Thad's wrong for losing his temper to a degree, but like I said, that shows a fire. That shows I'd rather him give a shit than not care and just be passive and maybe Scottie acted wrong and he did need to call him out on it. I'm going to trust Thad's judgment on this way, way more than Scottie, just because he has way more time in this league and he's seen all kinds of stuff. And Thad wouldn't have gotten that heated or upset if it wasn't warranted, is what I'll say. It's not like he does this kind of shit every day. And in some ways, I've seen Scottie's behavior on Twitch act in a certain way where I could see where Thad would act like that towards him to try and help him and correct him, maybe in a way that he's not seeing things correctly. So, I once again, this may be an age thing that I see it from the old guy's perspective, and some of the younger people see it from the young guy's perspective. But see, this is what the old guys like me are saying what I'm saying, and the young people are saying stupid shit like going to Thad's wife and saying your old ass husband needs to shut the fuck up with our future of our team and get the fuck off our team. So you tell me which side is right and which side is being immature and which side is kind of full of shit. Yes, the younger people. Because they listen, I'm going to tell you this right now that, Scottie may have been echoing and acting in those kind of behavior like the people that are standing up for him against Shanika Young and being ugly and attacking her about her husband. That's what I'm saying. You got to understand, Scottie is immature in some ways. I saw him act in certain ways on his Twitch last summer that were not mature. And there are things that he says that are not necessarily nice, and there kind of can be like, not very good. And it could be that Thad was getting him back in his lane to a degree. So I don't agree with this. Just because Scott's so good and he may be the best player on our team eventually doesn't mean he can be out of pocket and just do whatever the fuck he wants. And old vets need to be respected and heard. And that's the end all and be all of it. I give Thad completely my trust that he is not wrong for anything he did that day, and that he was doing what he felt was necessary with 17 years experience in the NBA. That you just got to look at it that way. I'm sorry. It's just got to be that way. Forgetful saying some kids are born old souls. Scottie's not one. He still has a teenage brain, brilliant, but not mature. I never criticized the coach. Very difficult to deal with boys in grown up bodies. It's true. Like in some ways, Scottie is like a big kid. He really, really is. Somebody said he's like an overgrown middle school kid. It's not that far off. Trust me. Being around him last summer for so many hours and just seeing him in all kinds of different states, whether he's happy, whether he's sad, whether he's worried, whether he's completely tired, whether he's hungry, when he's starting to get hungry. I've seen that side of him. I'm serious. When I was on Twitch, I wasn't like the other people on Twitch. I was doing a psychoanalysis of him the whole entire time I was on there. And I was really, really paying attention to what he says, how he says it, what he's saying and what his face is saying, and what he's doing, how he interacts with everybody, the things that he cares about, the things that he doesn't care about. All that stuff was going into my brain to keep track of. And I really do kind of know Scottie more than the average fan does, just because of like 136 hours of being with him on Twitch last summer. And I'm telling you, there is an immaturity there still. And Fred's even alluded to this. Like in his first year, in his rookie year, Fred was saying there's some players on this team that are very immature and they're going to have to learn how to be more pro. And I think that had to do with Scottie, seriously. And that's what you got to frame part of what happened with that maybe that's partly what was in factor there. This guy maybe was being immature in a moment, and Thaddeus was trying to correct him in that way. So, Scottie is an old soul in a way, though, too. It's like in some ways you can be an old soul and be very immature. In some ways, I feel like I'm an old soul, but I am a very immature 47-year-old person. Trust me. There's some things about me that are very immature for my age. But in some ways, you can have old soul wisdom and be an old soul at the same time as being a young, immature kind of person in your spirit. So you can have an old soul, but a young spirit. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. Max is here. Good to see Max. I guess. So Max is a controversial figure here sometimes. What do you think about Ayton to the Toronto? This is a very realistic trade that could actually happen. The Ayton is not long to be in Pheonix, and we were just there, and we saw James Jones talking to Masai Ujiri in the entryway, and that this is a person on the Suns team that has been deemed is probably going to get moved. I've gone back and forth on this. I'm saying I don't want Ayton on this team because they gave up and Monty Williams got mad at him in the playoffs last year, and maybe that's a problem with him. But also in some ways, I'm thinking, well, what's the problem with the Phoenix Suns team? Because they have such toxic front office. Maybe there's some problems with that team in certain ways. I don't know. It's hard to suss out. In some ways, Ayton's age is super attractive. I thought one of the reasons why I wouldn't want DeAndre Ayton is because he's older and he's kind of like already who he is, but he isn't who he is completely. He isn't, like we were just talking about, totally mature as an NBA player. And that there may be a period of time in the next couple of years where he grows up a little bit and it changes who he is as a pro. And it's very much like what happened with Lowry's career arc, that he was immature when he was younger, and then he kind of figured things out and he became a much better pro handling it. Well, there's the possibility that that could happen with Ayton in some ways. Maybe he wakes up and he really does give a shit. Like there's an interview with him after the game against us about the incident with Scottie. And that incident with Scottie is another example of what I'm talking about with Scott and the things about him and his immaturity. In some ways, what happened with him and Ayton was a little immature. Let's just put it that way. But he didn't cross the line and nothing really bad happened about it. So I can't be too upset with Scott. But this is the thing. Ayton, after that game, in his interview, said, I don't know what Scottie's problem was, but I wasn't going to back down to him. And I'm just pissed off. And because we've been losing so much. And I was really mad the last time we played in Toronto, how badly I played against them and that they beat us. That I couldn't score and I couldn't rebound. And it pissed me off. And I was super motivated to kill them in this game in Pheonix. This is basically what Ayton said in his interview. It's like, I don't understand the conflict with Scottie. We're cool. And it was just silly. And then I was so mad that in my performance against Toronto in the game already this season, that I had to take it out on them for sure. And when I heard him say that in that interview, that made me like Ayton more. That made me realize this dude has a competitive fire, and he did not stand for having a poor performance against the Raptors in Toronto. That is stuff that's attractive to me, that he gives a shit and that he wants to improve and get better. So in some ways, I'm like not totally sure what the character profile with DeAndre Ayton is at this point. Is he a guy who gives up on the court on his team and his coach calls him out for it in the playoffs? Or is he this dude that really gave a shit about losing to Toronto and playing so horrible against us that he came out like a monster when he played us in Pheonix? So I don't know. I think that it's really up to Masai. If Masai and them think that he's the right move and we get him, I'm going to trust in that. And it'll be great, I'm sure. But if it doesn't happen, then we'll know why, because it isn't the right move. But in some ways, I'm on the fence. I would say, like last summer, we decided we didn't want him on this team, partly because of what happened in the playoffs with him last year. But now, in some ways, I'm like, well, he is a center, and he could fix some things in certain ways if we do a swap. So I don't know, Max. This is something for Bobby and Masai to figure out, and maybe we'll see Ayton swapping the purple with the Phoenix Suns for the red of the Raptors. Carlos saying, fun guy. That's what a vet's supposed to do, actually. Call out young guys for going over the line. That's exactly what they're supposed to do. It doesn't matter if you're like Michael Jordan, you come into the league. You could be the absolute great. LeBron, when he came in the league, sure, he got a little bit of special treatment because he's golden boy, heralded, but there were still vets on that Cleveland Cavalier team when he was a youngster, like 19 years old when he came in the league, that kept him in line and taught him how to be a better vet and taught him how to grow up as a professional in the NBA. And that's all part of this is, seriously. So some of that is partly what happened with that in him, is how to be a better vet and stuff like that. So it's totally Thad's job to call out people like Scottie, even if they're better talent-wise, for their bullshit and correct them. Go Gadget Raptor saying, Lex, the VR thing is pretty crazy, and at your home with your Oculus headset on, but you're viewing the game as if you're sitting courtside watching the game. That is cool as hell. Wow. So you don't even have to be at the game. You can get the virtual experience at home. Wow. You can smoke all the weed you want while you watch the game sitting there now. And you feel like you're in the arena. That would be cool, to act like you're smoking weed in the arena on the VR. This is the first thing I think about when I think of this. I must be such a pothead. Oh my gosh. To think, oh, I want to smoke weed in the arena. That's amazing. And thank you for the information, Go Gadget. Yeah, Logical saying, I dream too. Masai, we trust. I dream too. I dream of Messi. I dream of Kobe, Ronaldo, Pele. I don't give a shit. I'll throw all these old soccer football players' names out there. I dream of getting them too. That's what Masai said at the beginning of the year. It's hilarious. Nameless saying, it's okay, Lex. Even Jesus had his moment of doubt. I love it. All right, let's keep going. Yeah, we're over 2 hours. It's cool. We'll finish this up quick. I got to do the real mascot matchup still though. Duke Rocks is saying I'd keep Gary over Fred, even though Fred is a better player currently, but Gary is 4 years younger. I'd rather also keep OG versus Siakam for the same reason, youth. Yeah, I can get behind the OG versus Siakam side. The Fred versus Gary thing is a little bit different, and the part of the reason why is something we talked about in the last couple of days is that Fred is kind of more unique in this league than Gary is. That there may be players that are similar to Gary, way more of them around the league than Fred. Fred is kind of a special brain trust, like computer. He's like a hard drive to have on your team of information and experience and just really good basketball IQ and smarts and managing the game and all kinds of stuff that you don't want to get rid of necessarily. It's an accrued knowledge that's very good for our brain trust on our team. And Gary is great. Honestly, he's fantastic. But you know what? You could turn around and get Jordan Clarkson. You could turn around and get like maybe 4 or 5, 6. There may be like a dozen guys in the league that can kind of do what Gary does right now. And that's what I'm kind of saying. You may be able to replace Gary easier than you're able to replace Fred. In some ways, Gary was a replacement for Norman. And that's what I'm saying. There's a player like Norman, a player like Gary, a player like that may be coming into their career at a certain period of their career where the contract is better and not going into a big contract like Gary's about to go into, and you replenish that way. You keep the same kind of role player on the team, but it's a different dude, and they're in a different place in their career, so we can pay them less money. It's kind of like what we did with Norman. Is we kind of we traded in. It's like trading in a car. You get, okay, this car, we drove it for a couple of years, it's great, but we want to get a new one and a different cost, kind of thing. I know I shouldn't compare the players to cars, but that's kind of what I look at it like. Is that's why Fred may be more valuable than Gary, because he's harder to replace. Fun guy saying, you know what's crazy that people totally forget? Thad was sent in the trade with some other player, and remember raving about it and then got waived. Yes, Drew Eubanks, who just won for Blazers. What the fuck, Bobby? Drew Eubanks is not a good player. And listen, I had no problem with us waiving him at that time. And when he went to Portland, that was lucky. He still stayed in the league. Now, when we played Portland the other night, he was horrible. Why would you want that big stiff on your team? He was not good. Listen, we actually beat Portland's ass partly because they started him and played him. So yeah, no, Drew Eubanks is nobody we need to care about. Or it's not somebody like, oh man, why did we let this guy go like Yuta? No, we're not doing that with Drew Eubanks. I'm sorry. You can't do that with him. He's not good enough. I'm sorry. Go Gadget Raptor saying at Duke, hate to say it, I agree with you after the way this season has gone. Currently have only a 4% chance of getting to the 7th and 8th chance to get to the 8th in the East, but we have a 9% chance at Wemby. Yeah, the chances are better for us to get the highly prized tank award of Victor Wembanyama than actually getting to the 7th or 8th seed in the Eastern Conference in the play-in. That is insane. That is insane. We have a much better chance of getting Wemby than making the play-in in those seeds. Holy crap. Holy crap. Crazy. I'm pretty sure those stats are correct too. Curtis is saying, I feel like we're not going to do as much as we're expecting at the trade deadline. Curtis, good to see you. Long time person coming around the channel every once in a while. Good to see your name again, Curtis. You know what? I think this is a smart way to think about this is temper expectations and not get too excited about something happening, because we have a record of not doing anything. When everybody thinks we should do something, we end up not doing anything. So in some ways, I could see where Curtis might be right. And then this may be the point where people start turning on Bobby and they start saying, yeah, we need to fire the front office because they didn't do anything. So in some ways, I think they're going to do something just because they may want to prevent the fans turning on the front office for being inactive about our issues right now. So I think they will do something, even if it's a small deal of some sort, but they're going to signify that they care and they're trying to do something about it. I would hope. And if they don't, that may be a big problem. The fan nation may turn on the front office real quick. So yeah, do be real careful about this, Bobby. Duke saying to trade OG would make me question the brass. The Hall would have to knock my socks off. 3 first-round picks don't cut it. Yeah, I'm with you on this. It's got to be more than picks. It's got to be a very solid player also that will kind of hopefully make up a little bit of the void that OG will be having going away from us. I think it's true. I think OG in a lot of ways is untradeable. In some ways, he's the heart and soul of our team. and more than anybody else on our team. And we don't want to do that. We want to trade our heart or our brain. It is like Wizard of Oz. Do we want to fucking be a scarecrow or a tin man with no heart or no brain? You trade Fred VanVleet, you lose your brain. And you trade OG Anunoby, you use your heart. You lose your heart. So yeah, we don't want to lose body parts. No, we don't. Fun guy saying, whoa, 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 whoa. Conflict with Scottie. Ayton was 100% absolutely initiated that situation. Scottie was looking away, and Ayton got in his face talking. But I like Ayton's character anyway, despite that. It just got a little chippy. That's all. No, to me, I like that he didn't stand down from Ayton, that he stood up to him. But in some ways, that look on his face, it's just kind of like, I don't know. In a lot of ways, Sky's not wrong. I'm just saying, but I'm just saying that in some ways he looks for that. He looks for this kind of stuff. Trust me, he really does. Because he's looking back when he's about to make a dunk, and he's looking back at people and say, yeah, you didn't get to me. And then he's dunking it. He's that kind of guy. We just got to realize that. And I love him for it in a way, because in a way, he's got that edge that we've been wanting in a Raptor, in a top Raptor. It's not totally like nice. And that's cool. I like that about Scottie. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking bad about some of this. It's just that he's got to rein it in. It's very much like Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman had a lot of good qualities to him, but he had a lot of extracurricular qualities that hurt the team. And Phil Jackson had to help mold him to get rid of a lot of the stuff that hurt the team and really focus on the good stuff. Well, there may be some stuff. It's not on the level of Rodman. Trust me. He's not kicking photographers or headbutting people and shit like that. But there may be a little bit of like Rodman-esque kind of stuff in Scottie that needs to be kind of trained out, because it's not helpful for the team in winning, and it may be a little toxic. That's what I'm saying. But I don't think in that situation you're right. That it was more Ayton and initiated it, and it's more his fault, and Scottie just needed to stand up to him. So yeah, I get with you on that. Omari's saying, I think Ayton deserves a pass for quitting on his team, knowing what we know about Rob Sarver in his tenure in Pheonix. Maybe he was fed up with the BS environment. That's what I'm saying. That, we've got more of the picture painted for us with what's been going on in Pheonix as a franchise the last couple of years. And I don't think a lot of people want to be there. Jay Crowder didn't want to be there. Earl Watson, go talk to him about his time in Pheonix. In fact, he's a part of the whole investigation. They came in and interviewed Earl Watson about when he was an assistant coach on that team. And he was actually part of the reason why he's not with Pheonix is because of that toxicity and his clashes inside that organization because of that. There's testimony that he made in this whole case with the Suns that has a very important testimony about the issues with their franchise. So Earl Watson, our assistant coach, is involved in this whole situation from his past with that team. And he apparently has a gripe with them for how he was treated in a way that was very not right. We've heard about the misogyny and some of the stuff of treating women there, but I also heard there was some racial stuff that was going on there too. And I'd hate to think that specifically Earl Watson was a victim of some sort of racial problem with the franchise in Pheonix. So yeah, exactly, Omari. I'm going to give Ayton a pass for giving up on the Suns, because maybe the Suns deserve to be given up on. Yeah, good point. Mike's saying the same thing. I agree with that. Both of that. That's awesome. Good stuff. We're going long today, but hey, it is what it is. G saying, just chiming in. Did you watch the 905? Wow, they were putting on a dunk show. They brought in 2 7-footers. I really like the new guy, the new two new guys. And yes, Gabe Brown had that Vince Carter between the legs dunk last night in the middle of the game. It was epic. It's a historic night in the G League 905 history. Jeff Doughton's reaction on the bench was just pure joy in itself. Just go watch that dunk and then see what Jeff did after the dunk. It's hilarious. It really is. What a fun game with the 905 last night for sure, G. I went over it earlier in the stream. If you want to hear my breakdown of the stats and the people who are playing in it and stuff like that, it's earlier in the stream. Duke's saying, I'd rather have that guy from Memphis, Almar, over Ayton. He can shoot the three. Ayton doesn't fit the Raps. Okay. I don't know exactly what player you're talking about, Almar. I don't know that name. But interesting. Okay, Duke doesn't think he fits our team. Well, he's a shot blocker. He's a center. He can run the floor. He can't really shoot threes. He's not bad at the free throw line. I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. We look at people like Jakob, and we look at the knocks, and there's some of the things about Ayton that aren't really knocks. And in some ways, his timeline with his career really works well with our players already. He's got enough time in the league, and he really could be a 20-10 guy. you really, really could be. In fact, on my looking at the whole league as far as centers, I think he's a top 10 center in this league. I really, really do. Like if we had to take 10 guys in this league that are absolutely the best centers in the league, I think Ayton's one of the top 10 centers in this league. And in some ways, that's super attractive in itself because it would give us a whole different kind of look having a big guy that can run up and down the court with us. And he went to Arizona, listen, and he is friends with Christian already. He's been mentoring Christian Koloko already because of their alumni connection with Arizona. So in some ways, that's actually really attractive also that Ayton and Koloko could be working together and teaching Koloko and bringing him along faster. And then think about the promise of a two Arizona Twin Towers lineup with Koloko and Ayton out there at the same time. I don't know. I'm starting to really talk myself into liking Ayton on this team. I'm sorry, Duke. I take your comment. You're saying he doesn't fit. But then I'm like thinking, wait a second. He went to Arizona and so did Koloko. And if they're... G saying, was the Cleveland Charge ready? Laugh out loud. So fun. 136 to 100, a total rout. I'm happy. I wish I could have watched that game. I know maybe the replay will be on YouTube at this point because that game looks like it was worth watching. Such a joyous, fun game in Mississauga last night on Groundhog's Day. What a great game last night. Forgetful saying, with two good point guards, each playing 32 minutes, you can always have one playing with the bench and starting and closing. That is how you improve bench players' games. You know what? You're hitting on something, Forgetful, that is true and something that is lost in the NBA, and especially on our team, is having that really good backup point guard. A very, very good team in the past would always have a very special backup point guard. That position and that role is actually really important because what you want with a backup point guard is not a drop off in quality of how your team plays. And then it was on the responsibility of your second point guard to come out there and keep things at the same quality level as whether the starters would be out there or not. And that's a role that we need to think about more and be more important. I know certain people in this chat have brought up backup point guard and really is important in some ways to help you have a good bench production. It starts with having a good bench leader and having a good backup point guard. So I can get behind that for sure. I can totally get behind that, Forgetful. Go Gadget Raptor saying smoke HO to the face and forget you're watching via VR, laughing my ass off. I would be talking the most shit to players like they could hear me. Yeah, I guess if it's VR and you're virtually, it doesn't matter where you sit. So maybe you could sit in Drake's seat. That would be badass. You're like, this is the VR experience that you get with the Toronto Raptors. Sit in Drake's seat virtually at home. And you get to put it on, and you know Drake could actually be there, and maybe you're like in the camera, and like Drake's arms are like where in front of you, and you're like doing things that Drake would. Wait, what are you doing, Drake? He's eating Twizzlers, and you're like, oh, there's a Twizzler going into your mouth or something like, or he's turning around and he's like putting the headset on, he's talking to Jack and Matt, and all of a sudden, I don't know, that'd be kind of cool. Because it's VR, you should be able to sit anywhere you want in the whole entire building. You go sit in Nat Badia's seat underneath the basket. Go sit wherever the fuck. Go sit in Nick Nurse's seat on the bench. I don't know. It's VR. You can do it, right? You're not really there. That's fantastic. That would be awesome. Yeah, and I'd be yelling in the house too. The neighbors might be like, "Why is he yelling at LeBron? He's in his house. He's watching the game, I guess." No, he's in the game. He's virtually in the game. That's crazy. Carlos saying, exactly. Roster construction is Bobby's job. Every one of us here gets fired if we fumble the ball and leads to a losing year. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. If a head's got to roll at the end of the season, I don't want it to be Nick. I don't want it to be any of these players getting blamed because obviously they just get traded. If somebody's got to get fired, it's going to be Bobby Webster. And it's just, I mean, I'm sorry. It's not going to be Masai and it's not going to be Nick. It'll be Bobby Webster. That's just how it is, Bobby. I'm sorry, bro. That's just how it is. So you better make a deal soon and get yourself in good faith. Logical saying those percentages don't take in the fact 9th and 10th can take 7th or 8th and win or 2. So that percentage is actually unknown. And base level like 7 to 10 is 1%, and it's the 10th seed is 10th seed percentage. All right. Yeah, I don't totally understand what you're saying, but I kind of understand. You're saying that even with getting into those spots, then you got to factor in the fact of actually winning the play-in game to get in the playoffs. And then those percentages about that shrink even smaller than the percentages of getting a victor or a scoot. So yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. All right, let me cook saying nice stream, but I had to put on my sunglasses because of my background here. It looks like you're Jesus coming down from the on high. Please don't get mad. Honest question. What was it like getting beat by LeBron every year? Oh my gosh. Listen, let me cook. Listen, I appreciate your first parts of your statement. Not that I want to have anything to being like Jesus figure or anything like that. And I'm sorry about the light behind me. I thought it would block it out good enough, but it's just creative lighting. Let's just put it that way. Um, Listen, you're bringing back trauma. You're bringing back history that is very sad. I was at those games. I was very much in the building during LeBronto years of Casey and DeMar and Kyle, and the years that we get pretty far. I was at the game where Bismack blocked LeBron on that inbounds play where he tried to dunk it on us and an inbounds play and like sneak up on us, but Bismack wasn't happening it, and we won that game. So I was at one of the very few games that we beat Cleveland and LeBron during that period of time in the playoffs. And it felt so good. And so I'll talk about that. How about that? I'm going to talk about when we beat LeBron in the one game in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2016. And I was in the building and I got to be in person at that game. It felt so good. So we'll talk about that instead. How about that? Maybe that's not what you wanted, let me cook. But I remember that game. I still got the shirt. In fact, I got it somewhere in my laundry in the pile over there. 2016 playoffs, Raptors versus the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron. And he tried to do a sneaky play to get a dunk off an inbounds play. And Bismack met him there and blocked his ass. And then we won the game. That's what I'll remember. All the other stuff I blocked out. I don't remember any of that other stuff. There was some sort of pain or something like that. Sure, we probably lost that series. We did. But at least I was at one of the games where we beat LeBron in the playoffs. Yeah, I love that game. That was fun. Duke Rocks is saying, don't laugh, but I would do a Siakam, Fred VanVleet for Garland and Mobley. The Cavs would be an instant contender for the next 2 to 4 years and reset the Raptors rebuild. Ooh, I don't know. I don't like Garland. He's not a player I like, and I don't like Mobley either. I don't want to trade with Cleveland. Fuck Cleveland. All right, that's what you want to do. That's not what I want to do. Omar's saying if Ayton comes to Toronto, Scottie would welcome him at YYZ with the Rexdalian mean mug he gave him the other day. Listen, Ayton's from Bahamas. There is a certain culture on our team with Scottie. He's Jamaican, and Delano has roots in Jamaica also. And the Ayton, these guys would probably all get along really good. And I bet you there is some respect and fun between what happened between Scottie and him the other night. That they'd probably laugh about it in years from now. About, oh, you remember that time when we played and you got up in my face? That's funny. Because I think there is a very much a mutual respect and a friendship in some ways between them. There's no problem. So it's all good. Fun guy saying that Scottie look few years down the road is going to be a major meme. Laugh out loud. Watch. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be building memes in different ways. The thing is, more he gets like solid as a player and a superstar, let's see what he does with his cockiness. He may be a very arrogant player in this league that can back it up and that people really hate. Unless you're a Raptors fan and you really love him and like love what he's doing, other teams may really hate him because they may think he's cocky. And he could be in danger of becoming a guy like Joel Embiid. That everybody hates him in the whole entire league except for the fans of the team that he's on. And I worry about that with Scottie. I kind of want him to be popular around the whole league, and I think he will. It may be a similar kind of thing to LeBron. But in some ways, he needs to be careful. He doesn't want to be a troll like Joel. And that could happen also with him. So, Scottie, that's why you may want to limit the trollish kind of behavior and being bratty, because you don't want to be like Embiid. You want to be more like LeBron and be respected and feared, but also like, in some ways you're like hated because you're just so good, that kind of thing. So Mike's saying Earl Watson said something to Rob Sarver about the racist crap he was saying. So Rob fired Earl, the guy who developed Booker. So we grabbed him up. So Rob Sarver is a Raps fan. Just kidding. He can stay away. Yeah, I think that is actually how it went down. That Earl Watson, having a conscience, being a person of like a character inside of an organization that didn't really have good character at that time, spoke up. And he got dealt with for it. And that may be part of what is going on with this whole thing. And now Sarver's out. And I'm sure Earl Watson felt real good about that day when the owner was forced to sell his part in the team and get the fuck out of there. Yeah. It's a very personal thing with Earl Watson. Let Me Cook saying, I don't know if it's fake, but I saw a thing on social media about ESPN possibly doing a 30 for 30 LeBron versus the Raptors. All right. You know what? You got 2 strikes now. You got one for the earlier one because you doubled down on it. You've got 2. So you get your third one and you'll see what happens, Cook. They're not going to do a 30-30 on that. They would have done that a long time ago if they were going to do that. If they're going to do a 30 for 30 on that, that's silly. They need to do it on the whole Eastern Conference because the way that LeBron treated the Raptors was not any different than how he treated the Pacers, the Knicks, the Bulls, the Heat, every single fucking Eastern Conference team. So it's not just about the Raptors. Trust me. They were putting everybody out during that time period. And when LeBron went to the Lakers, the whole Eastern Conference had the same feeling as the Raptors. So don't get it twisted. It's not specifically just the Raptors. He did this to a lot of teams in the East. So yeah, you better go ahead and do that 30 for 30 on the whole Eastern Conference and not make it just the Raptors. You got 2 strikes. You got your warning. Let's just put it that way. Go Gadget Raptor is saying, Mike, those numbers, yeah, can go up and down, but they've been trending downward the last week now. It went lower last night after Bulls, Knicks, and Cavs won. Now we need to win 17 or 9 and 29 to get to 40 wins. We need to win 17 of 29 games to get to 40 wins. That's not even half. That's not even 500. That's insane. That is crazy. Oh my gosh. Wow. This has been a really tough year. This has been a super, super tough year. Duke Rocks is saying the name is Santi Aldama. Not saying I trade for him, but I prefer a rim protector that can spread the floor. Well, I had no idea who that dude is or how good he is. And that's not usually a good sign. I don't know how long he's been in the league. I'd love Walker Kessler on our team. That would be a great center to have. I mean, I want to talk about what's realistic or probable. I don't think Memphis is going to, who knows? Maybe he's not that good. Maybe they will want to trade him. But Ayton's very realistic for actually possibly happening. And that's why we're talking about him so much. Is because the possibility of him getting moved to us is actually very high. Monique saying informational W stream. Lex, let's go Raptors. Keep playing the bench, play smart, let the starters rest. Yeah, tonight I think would be a good game for Nick to really, really play heavy minutes on bench guys and limit the starters. Pascal may be hungry and angry because of being snubbed, but that doesn't mean we need to play him 40 minutes tonight. Let's let him get his time and get out there and aggressive. But I'd like to see him get right around 30 to 35 minutes at the most. Because this is Houston and this is a good game for them to get some rest time with these guys. And also a great opportunity to show the bench some time on the court to maybe develop and do some things because it's Houston. Come on. And they're missing Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. and probably also Jabari Smith. So, yeah, they don't have a lot of players and stuff like that. That's going to be a big problem if we lose to them. All right, let's keep going. Let Me Cook saying, sorry, I wasn't trying to bring up hurt feelings, but I was really curious. I never asked a Raptor fan about it. Well, you know what? You're not going to get to ask again because you're gone, bro. You are gone. I'm sorry. I appreciate you for the little bit of time that you cooked with us, but you stepped over the line. One place we don't go here in this stream is cheap shots about Lebronto. And you did that. That was really, really bad. It was a big faux pas. There's 2 things that you absolutely get you banned from this channel. Too much Lebronto talk and also not validating the Toronto Raptors 2019 championship or sullying it or putting it down. So, yeah, you fell into that one this time. I appreciate you letting me cook. And I'm sorry. It's just it's got to be this way. This is a positive Raptor space and you're trolling. So, yeah, you're out. Mike saying, let me cook. Not gonna lie, that wouldn't be the best documentary because seriously, 2016, we took him to 6 games with a bad front court. We won the chip before he did again after 2016. 2019 is before 2020, so the sweeps are meh. Yeah. And there are other reasons why I said that wouldn't be a good documentary because it should include the whole Eastern Conference. It wasn't just the Raptors that singularly were beaten by the Cavs for a period of time during those years. The whole fucking Eastern Conference was. So it wasn't like just us. You got to go and look at all those teams. Amari's saying, let me cook. After 2019, no one cares about Lebronto. Pascalifornia has been more relevant since then. You go, Amari. Set him straight. If you have a housing need in the 905, you can call Amari Parsons. He is a realtor, and he can help you find a house to buy or rent. So call Amari. He's in the phone book. Amari Parsons can help you out. There you go. Logical saying, go, 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 Gadget, Raptor. Your numbers would be correct without the play-in. So 1 to 6 seed in those percentages, and 7 to 10 is technically unknown, and basic level play in entry could equal 7 to, okay, this is just a bunch of numbers. It's just a bunch of numbers. All right, and then the last comment here, go gadget Raptor saying, like Masai said, playing for what? Yeah. Cool Cat saying, yes, Lex, we have learned a lot about Scottie over Twitch. He's an open sponge for embracing new experiences. However, he's very competitive and hates losing. Anger and tears would be some responses. Yes. And he can't hide his emotions. He has no poker face. And there's nothing wrong with this. Listen, I love Scottie so much. I take him for exactly who he is, but I have to be fair and honest about his character and the traits and the things I've seen. There's not everything is exactly positive or nice. He is very much a cheapskate. But we can live with that. And he would admit that. He has no problem with people characterizing him like that because he wants to be thrifty and smart with his money. He feels bad if money comes out of his hands. It really hurts him in some ways, is what he said. So yeah, you're right. You're right. We have learned a lot about him, and I want to be fair. And as a positive Raptors fan, I want to encourage and be the best possible person for him as a mouthpiece on this channel and not hurting him in any kind of way. But I do want to be fair also. Yeah, he really does care about winning, and that's the thing that I love the most about him is his winning spirit and just how much it matters to him. If he didn't care, I'd be worried. All right, let me do the real mascot matchup real quick, guys. The last time we saw the mascot, he's on the side of the road. He found his way to the road finally with the help of the son of the property owner, but he's talking mad racist shit towards Raptors, Raptor kind. And he's like saying some shit. He's just out of pocket, this son. And well, they decided to have a little throwdown to get some jazz hands going. That's what they called it, the jazz hands. Because he's like, yo, you want some jazz? You can get some jazz. So they're fighting in the street. And it's kind of like a really screwed up kind of thing that happens is like, they're fighting, and the son actually has some fighting skills, and he's kind of kicking the Raptors' butt. And like, it's not really like, it's weird because you'd think the Raptor, being like a creature, would kind of have some advantages with sharp teeth and stuff. But no, this guy's actually like, at some reason, this kid has actually been trained in like Taekwondo or some sort of Muay Thai or something, because he's actually really good at fighting, and he's kind of kicking the Raptors' ass. And they're kind of fighting in the street, and then like he just beats them and he leaves them in the street on the side of the street, and like goes back and he's like, there, that'll teach you. So the son beat the Raptor, and it sucks because I really was hoping the Raptor would beat up that son because he was out of pocket and he was wrong. He's racist, just like the son's franchise in the front office. Well, he leaves. He's like, yeah, see you, loser. And he goes back inside. And now the Raptors just laying on the side of the street, beat up. And it's kind of like this situation he was kind of in like a few months ago, like where he was on the side of the street and he's kind of in a bad place. And all of a sudden, this weird car pulls up next to him. And it's like a weird, funny car. It's like a rocket car. And it's like, he's like, I remember this car from my dream I had last summer. There was like a weird rocket car that I saw last summer, but it was in a dream at that point. Well, it's like the dream is real. This weird rocket car exists in this real world, and it's sitting next to him. And the people in the car are kind of like, get in. Do you need some help? And he's kind of like, yeah, I don't feel well. I got beat up. So he gets in the rocket car. Now, is he smart to get in the rocket car with the driver? Should he trust this person? He trusted the son, and the son wasn't a nice guy, and it turned out bad. Well, let's find out next time on the Real Mascot Matchup. He's getting into a stranger's rocket car. I hope it goes well. Last summer with the rocket car, it went well in the preseason, but hopefully it'll go well this time too. We'll have to see. Let's see. MSJ saying we're going to beat the Rockets and Scottie's going to have a big night. I love that. I love that. It's too bad his buddy Jalen Green won't be suiting up. The injuries for tonight, just in review as we start to close up the stream. Kevin Porter Jr. is out, and so is Jalen Green. Jabari Smith is questionable tonight. On our side, OG is out for sure, and so is Otto Porter. Our referees tonight are David Guthrie, Sean Corbin, and Sayesh Mehta. All three of them favor the Houston Rockets. And that's insane to me because the Rockets have been so bad in recent years. How the fuck do they have a better winning percentage under the three refs than the Raptors do? It's really bad. In some ways, I'm worried about that. Although David Guthrie was really good in the last game he refereed for us, and I do like Sean Corbin, but Sayesh Mehta is not a good ref for us. The third ref is a douchebag, very much like Brandon Schwab was in the last game. So be watching that third ref. But hopefully Guthrie will control the game and good things will happen for us. Yeah, I'm real worried about that, though. Let's see. I hope we win tonight too. Mike saying actual quote from Messiah is playoffs for what? Playing for what? People misquote things and they become fact. My mission to look at the raw evidence and correct the truth. Project Truth always. Yeah, I don't think that people understand what he said about playing for what or playoffs for what. I think they're misinterpreting what Messiah meant in that moment, and they've made it into a whole other narrative. It's not that he was saying that. I forget exactly the context, but I know that it's not exactly how people are saying it. It's like Mike's saying here. Go Gadget Raptor saying rest Siakam and Fred tonight and roll out Scottie, Gary, Precious, Boucher, and Koloko. We'll still get that W. That's not a bad strategy in some ways. I think if we do load management for one of our overplayed starters that are really heavy in minutes, like Siakam or Trent or Fred, that would be smart. But I don't know. I think Siakam's biting at the chomp to play tonight because of yesterday, and we'd have to play him. Maybe we sit Fred. Maybe that is a smart thing that Fred just gets a rest game, although it's not a back to back. So maybe they don't want to do that. And he's like, oh, I'm going to travel to Houston. I might as well play. And that may be the case also. So we'll have to see. But if we do see a load managed player tonight, I wouldn't be surprised about it. But also, we got to realize OG's not available, and that's already kind of at a detriment. But I think you're right. We could sit guys, and we'd probably still beat the Rockets. I hope. Let's not take them lightly. A keys to the win tonight are don't take the Rockets lightly. Don't come out there with the wrong energy and play down to their level. Like if they're playing really bad, we need to play with a certain amount of excellence that's better than what they're playing with to ensure that we win. And obviously, we need to out Raptor them. This is a big key to the victory every single game. Is Raptors do a certain thing, is play defense and very dogged, very aggressive, getting to 50-50 balls, giving to loose balls, getting to rebounds, doing all that kind of stuff. We need to out Raptor the Rockets. They can't be the more energetic team that's getting the balls faster and outplaying us and causing turnovers and stuff like that. We need to out Raptor them. They cannot out Raptor us. And that's a big part of when we lose sometimes, the other team's putting in a better effort and out Raptoring us. So we can't let a young upstart team like the Rockets try and out Raptor us. We need to out Raptor them. And we need to take this very seriously. This is a business trip, and this is business. This isn't just a fun exhibition game because it's a not a very good record Rockets team that's missing their best player. This is a very serious game. They've won their last two games. We need to take them seriously. We need every single W that we can get. And this is one that we need to collect. Because if we don't collect this W and we somehow lose tonight, tomorrow's stream is going to be very expletive filled. Let's just put it that way. I will guarantee you I will be cussing up a storm tomorrow if we lose to the Rockets tonight. So y'all have a great Friday, TGIF, and Raptor your day, like Tom Duke said earlier. Do it the way the Raptors should do it tonight with excellence and execution and winning against the Rockets. You do that in your everyday life, what you do in your job, and hopefully that will add up to the kinetic atmosphere around the Raptors where they are in Houston to play the best they can and win this game for sure tonight. You guys have a great day. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'm pretty sure I covered everything I wanted to cover today. What is this on this page that I wanted to look at here? Yeah, I already talked about that. There's nothing here I need to go over still. All right, y'all have a great Friday and beat the Rockets tonight. Let's go Raptors. And Mike's saying Messiah was talking on rewarding the Tampa fans. Oh, yeah. Okay, Mike's elaborating, basically saying playoff or play-in for what? Why would we want to make the play-in? Just so these Tampa fans who have not supported us, in fact, they cheered the other team more than they cheered us. Why would we fucking play in for what? For these fans, they don't deserve it. That's what he meant when he said that. But he also kind of did mean, why the fuck would we want to be in the plans? Okay, y'all. Thanks again. And let's go Raptors.